across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, sorry about that intermission. I had a brand new microphone and it isn't working. So we've had to revert to an older microphone. I'm just going to plug, there we go, that should be okay now. Brand new mic, didn't work. I don't know if this one's working either, it's making lots of funny noises, but I am back with you, I'll try not to move. So here we are, right. Right, this is Petrie and this is Talk. And at least I can do that now. Coming up in the programme, got a full programme for you. Coming up at midnight, we're crossing live because it is officially the start of the World Cup, of course, at midnight. So we'll be crossing live to the United States of America. And I want to ask you, in our sort of talkback section, are you excited about this World Cup? Have you ever been to a World Cup? Did you go to World Cup? Is this really passed you by? Is this not doing it for you? Are you really looking forward to it? I'd just be really interested to test the temperature. In the meantime, of course, we'll be keeping a very tight eye on what's going on in Belfast. Belfast is seeing a second day of unrest as around 200 people have gathered in Newton Abbey tonight. Crowds have also gathered in Coleraine, where police are blocking the road and objects were hurled at the police. The force responded with water cannons and small fires have been seen. The family, meantime, of Stephen Ogilvie, who lost an eye in Monday's attack in Belfast, have issued a statement through Philip Brett, a DUP member of the Legislative Assembly in Northern Ireland, and Ogilvie's family thanked those who stepped in to protect him and also condemned violent unrest in Belfast last night, which followed the attack. Of course, we've seen images of that unrest last night and through the day and the damage that was done. The police are very keen to stop that from happening again. There seems to be a lot of very young boys out there, young men out there just itching for a fight. The police are pushing them back from a migrant hotel, we understand, but they're quite some distance away from that if they're planning to make any trouble. But we will keep an eye on that for you throughout the evening. Also, we'll be keeping an eye on the threats by the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, as well, who said they're going to hit Iran very hard tonight. So this could be the official breaking of the ceasefire, and we wait to see if what that causes in the coming days. So all of that is a packed programme. We're also going to be heading to Italy to speak to our travel and transport correspondent, who is actually travelling, who's going to take us through the papers. That's Ed Wiseman. Looking at AI and the justice system, could AI actually be making decisions about who is innocent and who is guilty? That certainly seems to be what we're looking at in the future. Defence spending as well, which seems to be woefully short of what the Defence Secretary wanted. And all of that, and you, of course. So lots to come in the next 3 hours. But to kick us off, the UK's independent terror watchdog, Jonathan Hall, has today said that immigration must be treated as a vital national security threat rather than an economic issue. His warnings follow last night's events in Belfast, where violent protesters caused havoc in the city after a life-threatening knife assault allegedly carried out by a Sudanese asylum seeker. Well, Hall emphasised that trauma from unstable states can escalate migrants' violence risk. This comes amid data showing a rise in foreign national convictions for violence, theft and sexual offences. So it's not just us imagining it, these offences are rising. Well, Hall concluded that mass migration risks destabilising the British nation, pointing to a stark silence from leadership regarding these evolving security threats. Well, here to discuss this further with me is Dr. S. Shelvan, who is Head of Immigration and Public Law at 33 Bedford Chambers in London and an adjunct professor at Centre for International Law and Globalisation at Southampton Law School. He's acted as a critical consultant, independent reviewer and training specialist to reform how the UK Home Office handles migration and asylum claims. Now, it's worth me giving you all of that information because this is the expert that we've got in front of us now. Shelvan, thank you so much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to have you. Look, to say that this is a national security issue, can you explain to me what he means by that?
Well, I think Jonathan Hall is very well respected in the field, and he's not saying these sort of words without any sort of weight to them. But he made it quite clear that his words were not with respect to what's happening in Belfast and Ali Haddad. And can I just correct something you said in the intro? Ali Haddad is not an asylum seeker. He was granted refugee status in 2023. Okay. So he's legally here. He's not illegal. And the question we must have is some individual goes and, I must first of all say, all of our thoughts and prayers are with Stephen Ogilvie and his family and anybody who is a victim of any such crime, be they the victim from somebody who's perpetrated, who is somewhere somebody who's without status to be in the United Kingdom, or somebody who's British. Yeah, victims of any crime should be at the forefront of our thoughts. Yeah. So the important thing is that Jonathan Hall made it quite clear that this is not in relation to Ali Haddad. It's with respect to what's happening with Iran. And as you said on one of your top news stories, is what's going to happen this evening from the United States in relation to attacks to Iran. And also the biggest issue is that, Stephen Ogilvie's family made it quite clear, and you also prefaced this. So he said, violence is not welcome. Peaceful protest is. And what we saw this with Henry Novak, in Southampton as well, is that what's happening is that these incidents are used by an excuse by a small minority of our population to run havoc with mob violence. And that's what we're seeing. And Judge Cohen on Monday evening, when he remanded Haddad into custody, and the next trial date, I think, is the 8th of July, made it quite clear that those who create havoc and violence will be dealt the full force of the law. So it's very important that, when Jonathan Hall was talking about this, we need to look at, the situation with Ali Haddad, and we don't know the evidence regarding his mental health profile. Jonathan Hall himself says, when you look at Ali Haddad, this is somebody from Sudan. Sudan, a country the United Kingdom has for many years for the nationals granted refugee status, because we know that if they're returned to those countries, individuals, young men, have suffered such harm in relation to war and terror and post-traumatic stress disorder. We don't know the medical records of this individual. But what were the national authorities doing in short? We've seen other deaths, the Nottingham death of the students. Yes, an individual who's paranoid schizophrenic. This is not an issue of migrants running havoc. This is really an issue of what the state is doing to ensure that they get the mental health services, to ensure that the general public is safe. So that's a different issue.
Is he saying a national security issue? And you're absolutely right. He did mention those conditions and saying, trauma and seeing violence. Even people who left to go and join ISIS, right?
Yes,
trying to come back to this country will have been subject to or have seen some horrendous things, which will have an impact on them. So is he talking about national security in terms of when those people come here, they need to be treated differently differently to refugees from countries where there isn't. Well, most of them would have to come from somewhere where there is war, though, wouldn't there? I mean, that's the thing.
Where there's a risk. No, the definition of refugees under Article 1A2 of the 1951 Refugee Convention, which the UK has been party to since 1952, so over 70 years of compliance with it. And the definition of refugee is an individual who has a well-founded fear of persecution because of race, religion, nationality, particular social group, or political opinion, who cannot be avail or is unwilling or unable to avail themselves of protection of the country of origin, a country of nationality or habitual residence. So what that does is that, what is the future risk if they're going to be tortured or ill-treated because of who they are, be their political opinion, religious beliefs, their sexual identity, their participation. It's not just about war. The refugee is not about political just itself. Now, the UK's always had a proud tradition regarding refugees, but it's very important that viewers know that it's only from the 28th of June 2022, when Section 40 of the Nationality and Borders Act 2022 came into force, that we actually said that those people who come to the country to claim asylum are illegal and criminal. So for 70 years, we never used that label. And it's only because the last Conservative government and the current Labour government are refusing to repeal that, is that we have this dogmatic labelling of these individuals illegal. Because what your viewers may not know is that there's no visa to lawfully come into the UK to claim asylum.
Yeah, no, I say that. I do say that on repeat. I do say that a lot, that they have to claim it on British soil.
Yeah, but they didn't have to. Up to September 2011, this very important your viewers also know, up to September 2011, an individual could leave their country of origin, say in sub-Saharan Africa, go to the nearest country, go to the British Embassy or British High Commission and claim asylum for the UK. That was only a policy, which policy was last Labour government, first year of the Lib Dems and Conservatives. So that policy was only stopped by the last, Conservative Lib Dem coalition in September 2011. What your visitors must also know is that when I was a baby barrister in 1999, individuals, for example, you're somebody escaping Mugabe, yeah? What you can't do is go out of Zimbabwe, Harare Airport, with your passport and your ID documents. Because if you're on a stop list, you'll be stopped, detained and tortured. So lots of individuals and my clients, and I've been practicing this field for over 25 years, come to the UK without their ID documents, not because they're deliberately destroying them, but because they can't leave their country safely with them. Now, it's important that your viewers know that, when I was a baby barrister, individuals came on the Eurostar from Waterloo into Waterloo. We stopped that. Then they came by lorries. We stopped that. Then what they're doing, they're coming on boats since 2018. And we've had like 180,000, coming on boats since 2018. But what's important that viewers know is that the only reason why they're coming by boats is that this government is not providing them a lawful safe passage to come to the UK to claim asylum. And what we know is that over 30% of those people who claimed asylum last year are coming from boats. But what do we need to do to stop the criminal gangs, to break the criminal gangs and stop the criminal gangs from profiting? All we need to do, instead of the hundreds of £1 the British taxpayers paying to France in relation to this whole issue, all we need to do is set up a registration centre in northern France for those refugees, which do not form the majority of those who are in France. The majority who are in France actually stay and claim asylum in France. So for that percentage of individuals in northern France, open up a registration centre, allow them to register their claims in northern France, and then lawfully transport them to the UK, and then you smash the criminal gangs because there's no supply and demand. And
people want the gangs smashed, not because they want the gangs smashed, but they want to stop the boats. And they don't just want to stop the boats, they want to stop the immigrants. They want to stop the claimants.
Well, that's the problem. Yes, and the point is why? Why do they want to stop people who are genuinely here to claim asylum? We know from the statistics, from the even the last statistics, the Commons Library issued a report on the 1st of June this year, so less than 2 weeks old, yeah? That we know from the statistics that around 42% of those who claim asylum are granted asylum by the Home Office. So 4 out of 10 are automatically granted asylum by the Home Office. That includes the small boats. From that, around 76% of those who aren't granted asylum appeal, and from that 33% are granted refugee status or some sort of leave to remain. So we know, as a country, from the Home Office statistics, knowing that the highest percentage of initial grants was in 2022 was 73%, because when we had this backlog, is that we know the majority are genuine refugees, including the young men you are showing, but we do know that's not just young men, it's also women and children. So what we know is that those who are coming to the country, the majority of those who are coming to the country, are genuine.
But do we? I mean, and that's
Yes, we
the
do.
question. But no, the figures can say one thing, because people can claim it. There's also a lot of young men who claim to be children. We find out later on they're not. So just because they say it doesn't mean that it's true. Just because they say they come from a war-torn country doesn't mean they have.
No, Petrie, that's what I'm trying to explain. These are not people who are just granted asylum because they say they come from a country. These are individuals who go through what is called a climate of disbelief in the Home Office. They have to go through a Home Office application. One of my clients had to go through 5 interviews before claiming asylum, and I won't go into the detail of that. You should know it's not an easy task. You don't turn up, say, I'm a refugee and get refugee status. There's up to 1 to 3 years delay in getting your initial decision being decided by the Home Office. Even if you then appeal it, some of my clients are waiting 1 year, 2 years to be able to get before an independent judge in what is currently the first-tier tribunal. So, Petrie, it's not people who are just claiming to be refugees. The 42% out of that 100 or 1,000 who were claiming asylum, who were granted asylum by the Home Office on initial decision, are found to be credible in relation to their own story. And then when we compare their evidence to what we know about the country of origin, the Home Office Country Policy Information Notes from the US State Department report, Amnesty International Human Rights Watch report, we accept that there'll be a risk on return. So this is a UK government deciding, under a very strict and painful process of claiming asylum, that these are genuine refugees. And then 50, the rest of them go before an independent judge, and these are British judges, not British judges in foreign courts. These are British judges in fact-finding tribunals who found them credible and plausible and therefore refugees. So it's not about saying that they're refugees. It's about proving to the standards of proof which are required.
But one of the issues with people coming in without paperwork and without the passports, and I have often said that that is the reason why they don't have the papers, not that they're chucking them in the sea, some might, but that's not the case, but is that we don't know who they are. And we know that we've allowed people into this country who are running away from a criminal past. So if we're talking about it being a national security threat, surely that is not acceptable, just to say, OK, you say your name is Joe Smith, we'll take your word at that and not find out if you've got a criminal past. This is what people are worried about.
OK, so let's look at various triggers in relation to identification. Knowing that we've been party to the Refugee Convention, 1951 Refugee Convention since 1952, OK? So the same profile of people who are coming with a criminal past have been able to come, you say, under this process for the past 70 years. Yeah, so there's nothing which has changed in relation to people with that sort of past coming to the country. What we did do is we did something called Brexit. Yeah, and what Brexit allowed us to do is come out of the European Union, but what it also enabled to happen is that we're no longer party to European Union checks and balances regarding the Dublin regulations. Yeah. So when we found that an individual had said that they were one person, we would check with our records with our EU neighbours and compatriots, and we'd be able to identify them regarding their fingerprints and biodata, for example, claiming in France, in Italy, in Greece. Yeah, so we decided as a population in that referendum to no longer have those checks and balances, because that's what happens when you no longer be part of the European Union. So if you want to show some blame on that, don't blame anybody but those who voted to leave Europe. That's I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying what the facts are. Now we also know that there are individuals who falsely claim to be of a certain nationality. We had those Albanians who came to the country in the early 2000s, yeah, who are actually Kosovans. Well, our courts and our Home Office are catching up with them, yeah, and these people are being removed or deported depending on whether there's criminal issues. So we've always had that mechanism of finding out people who they are, and the tiny minority who use false profiles, are being identified when they can, but we're not seeing a tidal wave in relation to the percentage of those who came to asylum who are showing these criminal profiles. So, for example, the Epping Forest case. Yes, we see that case as being, three individuals. One individual, of course, is convicted of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. Yeah, and that's a horrific crime. But your viewers may also want to know those protests in July last year outside the accommodation centre, the Bell Hotel. Yeah, in relation to those three individuals who were accused in Bell Hotel. But your viewers will also know that there were 69 incidents of sexual and violent assaults in the Epping Forest municipality the previous month. Where were the protests against those individuals? We need to be able to attack people address crime and the causes of crime, not just on nationality profiles, but why do those people committing crimes? Now, one issue which I'm not saying is a defense, but is important to put in the context, is that Robert Jenrick, when he was immigration minister under the last Conservative government, when he was asked on another channel, Sky, if I'm able to mention it, was asked, why don't you reduce the backlog? He said, if I reduce the backlog, that will be a pull for refugees to come to the country. So one of the reasons we've got these young men and young women and with families,
it is largely young men. We're not blind.
No, yes, but the point is, it's the issue with why do men come before spouses or children? It's because of the pathways in relation to being able to migrate, and being able to, if you're able to, escape in relation to that. And there's lots of studies in relation to the economic disparities and social disparities in relation to the situation of forced displaced women. Okay, so we need to make that quite clear. And it's quite important to know there's not only just young men who are coming across. And knowing that Refugee Council did a study of those who are coming on migrant boats in January 2023, and found that about 90% of them would be granted refugee status because they're genuine refugees. And your viewers may also want to know that in the last year we've had Palestinians who've come to claim asylum here in the UK as well. So we've had, not only Ukrainians and, Syrians and other nationalities and Sudanese, which are really at risk. So the important point is that we've got to say, well, we look at the issues of crime, because none of those individuals you've named, either today or in previous programs, we have any evidence that they had committed any criminal acts prior to coming to the UK.
But they certainly have when they've come to the UK, right? We know that. So what do we do with them then? Well, let's forget that it's... Now, hang on a minute, Chelva. Let's forget that it's the tiny minority, because it's the tiny minority that is destabilising this country right now. I think you'd admit that, okay?
No, sorry, Petrie, can I just correct that? It's a tiny minority of refugees who are committing these crimes. It's a tiny minority of the British far-right population in the UK.
I think that's too simple to say. I think that's lazy.
Simon Harris.
I'm sorry, I think that's lazy to say that.
Simon Harris, the Deputy Prime Minister of Ireland, said only 2 days ago he's horrified that there are masked men in Belfast targeting brown and black people.
Of course, that is horrific and it is wrong. But the narrative, the conversations, because people are called far right, because they're called far right for having concerns about migration, having concerns about the violent scenes that we've seen, certainly according to the alleged attacker, the Sudanese guy, that is destabilising the country, and that is exactly what Jonathan Hall is saying.
No, Jonathan Hall is saying is that we need to look at the issues with respect to why, and he said this quite clearly, which the far right won't agree with, is that there's the black and brown communities who are as British as you and I. Now, it is the far right who say that anybody with the colour of skin cannot be English. You have to accept that. That is the far right rhetoric of the Tommy Robinson's crew, and I'm sure.
But that's not the view of most people who are concerned about the levels of illegal migration into this country.
Most people aren't going on the streets and causing violence and having tonight.
But they are still concerned. They're still angry and concerned and scared.
Yes. Yes, and why are we scared? Because what we're having is violent scenes. We saw that with the rhetoric of text, on social media regarding, I don't care if they burn the hotel and burn people in there. All this rhetoric of violence, of hate and fear, is with respect to the fact that we need to be able to address the issues of crime and the causes of crime. And what we need to do is make sure that the Home Office has got enough funds to be able to make decisions in a just and timely manner, not have 5 interviews for an individual asylum seeker, not wait 1 or 2 years. And also, we need to make sure that we don't disband the first-tier tribunal with experienced judges to this adjudication authority, which the current Labour government wants to spend hundreds of millions of pounds there. We just need to make sure that there are enough judges to be able to hear these appeals, and we know the statistics. So what we need to do is to address unrest in political instability. So instead of banning asylum seekers from being able to get work unless they've been over 12 months since their decision has been made from application, we need to be able to make sure that they are not waiting for their interview.
But let me just very quick, because we're running out of time. What about somebody, let's say, who does commit a heinous crime in this country, one that is not acceptable, rape, murder, attempted murder, and why should we then have to put up with them? Should they not then be deported, held to what they're going to, as long as they leave us alone?
Okay, so the law is simple, and
no. But what do you think? I know what the law is.
Okay, well, I think as a refugee lawyer who believes in the rule of law, as all of my colleagues, both who represent refugees.
So we need to keep them. You're going to tell me.
No, if there's a real risk of torture or inhuman degrading.
What about the torture they've put on us? Or that person has done to that girl that they've raped, or that person they attacked?
And that's why we have the criminal justice system. The point is, none of us believe that anybody should be tortured. Yet we do not place individuals in a situation where they'll face torture, inhuman degrading treatment, or punishment. That's the basic, because I'll tell you, Petrie, if we get rid of that protection for the most, the ugliest forms of our society, on the gutter or the sewer, when will they come for us? So we have these base standards.
Yeah, but they're not our society, are they? They're people who have come here and have not behaved and have carried out rapes and things against the population.
They are our society. They've been granted refugee status and granted leave to remain, or any sort of form of leave to remain. We've had, the law was quite clear from the abolition of slavery. That's the reason why slavery was abolished in this country, because anybody who's come in the border of the United Kingdom.
That's not the same thing. Look, Chauvin, I think you and I
cannot be deported on return.
I know the law. I was just simply asking that when somebody behaves in that sort of way towards somebody in this society, why we should cut them some slack when they haven't shown us any respect or any care. But anyway, it's good to talk to you. Dr. S. Shelvan, who's Head of Immigration and Public Law at 33 Bedford Chambers in London. So, quick break, because I'm late. Back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And of course, at midnight, it's officially the start of the World Cup. Are you excited about it? I don't know anybody that is. Well, apart from Talk Sport, they are behind me. So let me remind you, of course, that we're going to be talking AI, getting into our justice system in a while, and we're also going to be joining up with Ed Wiseman, who's in Italy at the moment, to go through the papers for tomorrow. In the meantime, Downing Street might give the military less than an extra £13.5 billion and has delayed its big spending announcement. Officials are still looking at 3 different options and cannot agree on how to present the final numbers to the public. Military bosses are furious. One top leader warned that the government is hurting Britain's reputation by offering only half the money needed to keep the country safe. The lowest option is £4.5 billion short of what the National Security Advisor recommended. To hide this shortfall, the government might try to make the final deal look bigger by blending it with other types of spending. I will have my eyes firmly across that, don't you worry. Well, joining me to discuss this is Elliot Wilson, writer, historian and senior fellow at the National Security at the Coalition for Global Prosperity, and served on the Defence Committee for over 10 years. And we spoke a couple of months ago, didn't we, and said, look, you must come back when we've got a little bit more news. Now, we don't have the official report yet. Keir Starmer was pushed on that in the Commons today during PMQs. He said it'll be before the NATO meeting in Turkey, which is the 7th and 8th, I think, of June. So we haven't got long to wait for it, but it doesn't seem that it is going to give us what we need. What do you make of this?
I think the whole thing's been a shambles, to be honest. I mean, the Strategic Defence Review was published last summer, and the idea of the Defence Investment Plan was it filled in the blanks of how they were going to pay for it. And we were told that the investment plan would be published in the autumn of last year. Now, that clearly hasn't happened. It wasn't published in the spring. It's not been published now. It's going to be, we're looking at July, which is basically a year from the Strategic Defence Review. And the reason seems to be that the Treasury won't agree to give the MOD the money that the MOD wants. And I think what's extraordinary is that Keir Starmer clearly doesn't have the authority to tell the Treasury to do that. But we are obviously going to fall way short of the money that's required. I mean, the MOD needs about £28 billion to implement the sort of highlights of the Defence Review and also just make up shortfalls that have opened up over the past few years. It's looking like it will get 12, 13, 14 billion, which is half of what they need. And yet, the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State for Defence say that national security is their top priority. Well, clearly it isn't, because they're not paying for it. So I think these are very grim times, given that we're told again and again, quite rightly, what a serious threat Russia is to us and how fragile the global security is.
And I mean, the comments that we are an embarrassment. Sorry, I'm having lots of sound and technical issues this evening. Typical. But that we are an international embarrassment. And in fact, if we go to this NATO meeting with the kind of DIP that they're talking about, that they're being delivered, the Defence Investment Plan, that we're going to look even weaker and more pathetic on the world stage.
Well, I think there is a real issue. At the moment, we clearly have a more strained relationship with the United States than we've had for some time. Yeah. That's not helped by, Donald Trump doesn't like NATO. We know that. He wants us to do more. He wants Europe to do more. We're doing less, if anything. But there are also commitments we've made to our NATO allies that we will do certain things, we'll provide certain capability. And we can't do that. And they know we can't do that. And if our allies know that, then frankly, our enemies know that as well. So yes, it is embarrassing that the United Kingdom, with the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, a permanent seat on the UN Security Council, can't actually provide an armoured division for NATO, and we're contracted to provide 2. So if things do go badly wrong, we are going to be relying on our NATO allies to make up that shortfall. And that, I would have thought, if you're in government, is deeply, deeply embarrassing.
I was reading earlier that that Britain is second bottom in the NATO league table that ranks member states based on to the extent to which they're meeting their rearmament promises. And the only country below the UK is understood to be Iceland, that doesn't even have a military. I mean, it doesn't really get much worse then, does it?
It doesn't. If we're beating Iceland, which relies on its police and coast guard for national security, then we are doing pretty badly. And, Keir Starmer keeps saying, oh, we're moving up to 2.5, 2.6% of GDP that we'll spend on defence. Well, fine, but Poland's spending 4.3. The Baltic states are spending 3.5. We are stuck in this kind of doom loop whereby we're talking about what would have been quite moderately successful about 2 years ago, but the game has moved on. The defence is becoming more expensive, the world's becoming less safe, Russia's becoming more of a threat. And there's this weird disconnect that ministers say that they take it very seriously, that they understand the problems, that our armed forces will be NATO first and that we'll have all these wonderful capabilities, and yet they do nothing. We haven't ordered any ships in the past 2 years. We have vast capability gaps. We have 14 guns in the Royal Artillery. I don't think that's good enough. We have no new helicopters. There are huge gaps that we're just not doing anything to fill. And we're now hearing that, to keep the amount of money that we put in the Defence Investment Plan down, we may defer some investment decisions and some spending decisions, which is, as anybody who studied the MOD over the past few years will know, the worst thing you can do, because it makes things later, it makes things more expensive, and you end up having even worse problems in 10 years' time than you do now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a calculation, wasn't there, to have everything that we need for the defence of this country, we need to be at 4.5% of GDP. That's where we should be, somewhere roughly where Poland is.
And the NATO target for all members is 5% in total, 3.5% of which is sort of traditional core defence stuff, and the other 1.5% is national security, resilience, infrastructure, and things like that. We have signed up to that. We have to meet that, but there is no sign that I can see from inside Whitehall that there's any plan of how to do that. It's just something that the government has said, oh, of course we'll do that, and that's by 2035, which isn't that long away when you're talking about big numbers and big commitments.
But why? I mean, I know you said that they're paying lip service to that and saying, look, defence is really important. It clearly isn't. They clearly don't believe that we're going to be needing this level of, or I don't know, because it defies logic to me, and I'm sure it does to you as well, that we can see the growing risks around the world. We know that defence has fundamentally changed, warfare has fundamentally changed, and rapidly because of what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. So we can see the direction we need to be going in terms of defence, and we're nowhere near that. I mean, I know on Friday there's some meeting about drones, but it still feels like it's a bit slovenly, it's a bit sort of lackadaisical.
Well, I mean, the warning signs are coming all the time. When Cyprus was hit by a drone strike at the beginning of March, it took us 2 weeks to find a destroyer into Cyprus. And sending that one destroyer, which was the only one we had available, meant that we had none at home for air defence. We currently have, we've got 5 attack submarines in the Royal Navy. None of them is able to put to sea because they're all being repaired or maintained. So the signs are there, but it seems somehow as if the government just thinks this will go away, or perhaps more realistically, what they've realised is that to sort this out requires very hard decisions, and they don't want to make those decisions because spending more on defence does mean either raising tax or spending less elsewhere, and that's not something they seem inclined to bite the bullet on, if you give the expression.
Do you think that defence and defence spending, I mean, I often ask this question about things like the NHS, but do you think it should not be party political, that it actually should be cross-party decisions, that it should be all of the grown-ups getting together in the room and making decisions that are long-term, that are not just every 5 years changed on a whim, dropped, increased, dropped again, but that they are removed, if you like, almost from politics and treated differently?
I think there is an issue with long-term decisions and decisions which are chopped and changed. But to be honest, those can be made within the same government. So I'm not sure that politics is the issue. The difficulty is there's always going to be a tension between some decisions which are, simply need to be made, but also maintained over the long term, and some which are perfectly reasonably matters of party political clash. You may have a government which wants to increase our presence in the Indo-Pacific and one that doesn't, and that's a perfectly reasonable debate to have. I think the problem with trying to sort of take it out of politics is that it presents it as something which there is a right and a wrong answer on, and in terms of spending, often there isn't a right. There is a right and a wrong answer. You're doing this badly or you're doing this well. But in policy terms, there are decisions to be made, and those need to be made by politicians. I also wonder if you do try to defang this in political terms, if that sort of lets politicians off the hook, because it says, well, agreed it. All the grown-ups got together, so it's not our individual fault. And I think one of the bedeviling problems of defence spending and of the MOD over the past 20-odd years has been a complete lack of accountability, because nobody has ever been charged with, nobody's ever said to a specific general or a specific politician, this was your fault, you screwed this up, or you made this wrong decision. And I think that's really one of the problems that continues to beset the Ministry of Defence.
But do you have any faith, though, Elliot, that we're going to see the kind of defence that we need for this country anytime soon?
It's difficult to see how. I mean, the problem the government suffers from at the moment, and I have some sympathy with them in this, is that in defence, as in all other policy areas, everything they planned was posited on growth in the economy. So, there is more money to go around, therefore a fixed percentage of that money is more than it was before, because the sum total is more. But there's been no growth in the economy. It's virtually stagnant. But, this is a government which came to office promising to be the grown-ups in the room, promising to make the hard choices. And we've heard an awful lot of use of the word hard choices, but they haven't made any. There are difficult questions to ask. What are the armed forces for? What do we want to do? What are our national interests? What are our vital interests that we must protect? And what are things that we're doing but can't afford to do? Can we afford to be a kind of mini United States in doing everything? We've got nuclear deterrent, for example, which costs an awful lot of the defence budget and is a kind of fixed cost. You can't do that on the cheap, although we're currently having problems with maintenance and availability on the nuclear boats as well. And these are long-term issues as well, because you can't just, unless you buy stuff from other countries, which we're determined not to do, it seems, you can't fix equipment problems within a few weeks or a few months.
Yeah.
So I think we're looking, if there isn't a significant amount more money in the defence investment plan than seems to be likely, we're not going to see things change for 4 or 5 years, I wouldn't have thought, in a serious way, which takes us up to and beyond the next election.
God, it's just belies everything that you think is going on in the world. Elliot, brilliant to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure we'll do it again. Writer, historian and Senior Fellow for National Security at the Coalition for Global Prosperity. I'm going to take a quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and some breaking news for you. US Central Command has declared that US forces began launching additional self-defense strikes today at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time against multiple targets in Iran. So they're describing them as self-defense strikes today at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time against multiple targets in Iran. So we wait with bated breath to see how Iran responds to them. Right, though, as I promised, we are now going to be talking AI, as you know, a particular bugbear of mine. But a report in the Times today looked at how the Met Police is using Palantir's AI systems to drive certain applications in the police service, while London Mayor Sadiq Khan cancelled a £50 million contract with the same company, saying it didn't align with London's values. As AI companies become more closely involved with public services and government processes, as well as our personal and professional lives, how sure can we be that AI developers have our best interest at heart? Joining me to discuss this is our favourite futurologist, and social commentator Mal Fletcher. Mal, great to see you. Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure, Petrie. Good to see you again.
Great. Listen, let's start actually with a concern that I have over the AI paralegal. And they're saying that although the tool will not initially be used by judges to deliver rulings, ministry sources said the ambition would be to develop the technology securely and robustly enough to enable it to in the future. So we could have AI making judgments on human beings.
Yeah, I think it's a little way off yet, but it could happen, yes. I think legal professionals, Petrie, have already been surprised by how quickly AI has encroached in some areas of legal practice. For example, in obviously jobs involving pro forma tasks, filing, collating legal histories and so on. But higher end functions probably will be affected too in time. Countries like the Netherlands and Finland, we now have automated speeding fines that have seen AI replace legal administrators. And yes, in the near future, as you suggest, AI will make inroads into cases before the courts. It can advise judges on legal precedents. It can advise on appropriate sentencing in some cases. Sophisticated chatbots might allow solicitors to delegate initial client interviews to AI. But even in those cases, I think, Petrie, qualified human professionals will need to stay in the loop, checking, for example, things like AI bias and faulty research. And where cases involve significant impact on human lives, I think the public will demand that humans are directly engaged in every part of the process.
Yeah, because, I mean, we've already seen an example of this, haven't we, with the Maccabi Tel Aviv football fans. A review banning those Tel Aviv football fans from attending a match against Aston Villa in November found that an AI hallucination produced by Microsoft Copilot had helped police justify the decision. The error meant that a non-existent game between Tel Aviv and West Ham had been referenced in a report produced by police before the match. So the AI had a hallucination about a game that didn't even happen, reported that it was a danger to allow these fans to go to this match, and the police acted on it. I mean, that's the sort of thing that really worries me. There were human beings in that loop, quite a few of them, but they took it at its word and didn't look into it. That's of deep concern. I mean, it's only a football match to me, but it's of deep concern.
Indeed it is. That's a human problem, though. It's the use of AI there that's the problem, not the AI itself. And we need to be careful.
Well, it had a hallucination.
It did. It had a
game.
hallucination, yes. But then if the human was thinking straight and knew their stuff, they would be able to spot the error. Even if they knew the history of what was going on with the games, it would have helped. But there's a bigger issue here for me, Petrie, and that is that we've come to think of the owners of AI as benefactors. So in cases like the one you've cited, we just assume that the AI is going to act for the good. Those who control it are there to do altruistic work. And yet these owners have proven over and over again that for all their talk about the common good, they're motivated by two things, and that is profit and power. You know, they boast of altruistic endeavours like the possibility of tackling cancer or boosting education, for example, but those activities are mostly carried out by independent third parties, people who adapt their AI tools rather than the corporate leaders themselves. And so we see right now, for example, tech giants locked in this race to build the world's first all-encompassing AI system where almost every human experience you and I have will have a digital component involving an algorithm or an app of some kind. And that's been the goal of tech oligarchs from the year dot. It's just that AI allows them now to do it better. And that will bring us some helpful conveniences, but it doesn't do as much for us as it does do for their bottom line.
I mean, looking at Starlink and Elon Musk, there's been much said recently about the growth of his satellites around the globe, and that they are 24/7 observation, really, tools, their eyes on the entire world, and largely controlled by one man, Elon Musk.
Exactly. And I think in this area of the new space race, you see the profit and power motives of AI owners come to the fore most of all. I mean, Elon Musk is floating SpaceX on the US stock exchange for almost $2 trillion. It's a valuation that some reputable analysts say is way overdone, perhaps by as much as 50%. And Elon Musk, as the head of the company, says he intends to keep 85% of the company even after it's listed. So there's not a whole lot of altruism there.
No.
And he's not alone. You know, other companies involved in space travel are already charging the wealthiest people in the world huge sums to book journeys into space before they've even built the infrastructure. And eventually we know they're going to monetize things like space mining, as well as orbital data centers they're talking about now that will power AI when we finally get tired of data centers messing up the countryside down here.
They also, though, with AI, the plan I've been reading about, technocracies and the techno-feudalism, and the idea seems to be from these huge giant companies is that everything that we do will be rented. So, if everything, like even our bank accounts, they're giving them to us for free for now, but then there'll be a rental cost. Everything, that's how they're going to make their money in the future, is converting us all to use online and AI tools and then charge us for the use of them to carry out things that we didn't used to pay for.
Yes, that's true. And I was thinking about Sam Altman today, the head of OpenAI, who said only a few days ago that AI could soon become a metered utility like electricity or water, with us buying, quote, intelligence on demand.
Yeah.
But he conveniently forgets that you can buy information, but you can't buy intelligence. That's something that develops within the human mind. And an overflow of information doesn't guarantee us wisdom, and I would argue that wisdom is more important these days even than information or intelligence. And AI developers are competing for power. That's what they're about, money and power. And things like you're talking about are giving them access to power in the political landscape. They're supplying the systems that are used by government and public services like Palantir, you mentioned today with the Met. That level of reliance.
They're huge, Palantir. They are everywhere in the world. I mean, they should not. I thought there were monopolies commissions and organisations to stop one company like Palantir having so much oversight of so many countries' governments' processes.
Yeah, you would think so, but it seems to break down when governments get a look in at the convenience of AI and the fact that farming it out, resourcing it out to a company like Palantir is cheaper than the government building it from the ground up for themselves. But that level of reliance on big tech within the police, for example, will bring huge conflicts of interest and security problems when we come to analysing data from facial recognition, especially given AI's propensity for bias. AI companies are getting greater and greater power over the economy because they have the infrastructure that undergirds full cashlessness. They have geopolitical power because they're building weapons. So it's going on, and it's time governments really pulled their socks up and started to admit that AI companies are not in it for the common good or for public service. They're in it for power and for money.
And of course, observing us, I was reading again something the other day about people's Ring doorbells that are looking out on the world, and actually they're being tapped into by companies like Palantir to get those street views. And when you sign those long things that you don't bother reading, like I never do, and you agree to whatever terms that they say, because otherwise you'd be reading a book the length of a Shakespeare play. You're giving them permission actually to use your Ring doorbell as a source of information for these big observation companies.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with AI companies, and there's a lot of hypocrisy too.
Yeah.
You see that in the way they hype their products almost every week now. There's a new product that promises to revolutionize our lives and lead us to some utopia that even tech leaders themselves know is a mirage. Remember Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, said, "I want to bring the world closer together." But Meta's platforms have fueled political violence in places like India and Myanmar, and they've also brought great social breakdown through bullying and radicalizing of racial tensions.
Yeah, I find this all, as I always say to you, highly terrifying. And when I speak to you, I don't think that I feel any better. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Having said that, and to see your little face. And so thank you very much indeed for joining me as ever. Mal Fletcher there, futurologist and a social commentator. Coming up, we'll give you the latest on what's happening in Belfast. And of course, if we get any more about what's happening in the Middle East, we'll also bring you that live as well. But we are crossing to Italy in just a few moments' time to speak to Ed Wiseman so he can take us through the papers for tomorrow.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. Yeah, like I said, updating you on the Iran situation. The US military says it is striking multiple targets in Iran. We haven't heard anything from Tehran yet, but if we do, we will bring that to you straight away. And there's images of the new US firing against Iran on some of the networks. So they're just globes in the sky, really, because obviously we can't get any footage from Iran itself. But earlier on, Iran said it would not be cowed by aggression during negotiations, adding it would carry out attacks on new US interests if Washington followed through on Trump's threats. So I fear that the ceasefire may very well and truly be over. But of course, that is not the language that the US is using. The US is saying that they are defensive strikes, and that is because, of course, Trump has been denied any further war on Iran, but that is obviously some legal technicality that Trump can get around it. So that's the situation at the moment. We'll bring you more information as and when that comes in. But coming up in an hour, we are going to be crossing live to the United States of America because the World Cup literally kicks off. It all starts then. All the excitement. I mean, you walk through TalkSport, which I have to do to get to our newsroom, and they are awash with England flags and other flags and lots of flags in there. And so they're obviously very, very excited about it. As you've just heard, we're 1-0 up against Paraguay in the Costa Rica, sorry. Where did that come from? Why did I say Paraguay? Costa Rica. And that's just a friendly match, though. The first England game kicks off this time next week. It will have happened this time next week. But anyway, I want to know if you're excited about the World Cup. Genuinely, because apart from walking through TalkSport and the fantastic job that they're going to be doing with the World Cup, it's not some. I don't feel the excitement. Other competitions, you kind of, even though I'm not a football fan, you do tend to get a little bit swept up in it, don't you? But it doesn't feel like there's any sweeping anything up this year. So whether you're from Scotland or from England, you may choose. Who are you choosing if you're Welsh? Who do you support if you're Welsh? England or Scotland? Scotland. It's got to be, isn't it? Anyway, let me know. Are you following? Will you be following the World Cup? Are you excited about it, or has it been slightly ruined by America? That's what I want to talk to you about, because it's been feels like it's been a bit of a damp squib. So, it's only just starting at midnight. But anyway, we're going to cross over to the US and find out what the mood is over there. Maybe they're more excited about it than we are. Unless you can prove me wrong and tell me that you are incredibly excited. You can't wait for all this football to kick off. So do give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Let me know what's going on out there. Joining me now to discuss this and the papers, of course, is Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist. Ciao.
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 How are you doing?
That's about the only Italian I know. Ciao bella, actually.
Honestly, it's all you need. From my experience of having been to Italy, you can just say ciao and grazie, and they generally know what you're talking about.
That's probably all you need, and that symbol for a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
for
it's
another
universal. Another
Moretti, precisely. Yeah. I've actually transported and travelled myself to Switzerland now, so I'm in the resort town of Locarno, which is basically Italy in a lot of ways. They still sell pizza, and I just had a very lovely carbonara that I sent a photograph of, actually.
Yeah, I saw it, and I did say that was rude.
It was, and I know. I almost apologised for it, not only because you have to bear the brunt of multiple monitors telling you all the bad news in the world, but you're also in London.
Yeah. Without carbonara.
Yeah, but this part of Switzerland, that cost 26 Swiss francs. So I think it's one of the only places on earth that's comparable in cost to London Bridge, where you now are.
Yeah. I could probably make a carbonara for £1.50, I reckon.
Exactly. But would it be a proper carbonara, or would it make an Italian cry?
No, it would be a proper one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to live next to some Italians who would be very angry at my innovations. I would occasionally use cheddar. I would occasionally add peas. All of
Oh,
which,
peas in a carbonara.
it kind of makes it feel a bit less shameful, especially when you use cheddar. Especially when you use cheddar and Yo Valley yogurt, and just a little bit of peas just make it. Honestly, you shake your head. But
Yogurt.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Well, who has cream just kicking around as I was a single man?
You
at
don't
26?
you don't use cream in carbonara.
No, you just use egg, but that takes a lot of skill, which I didn't have, especially when I only had one singular electric hob. Although I possibly could have cooked based on the pure fury of the two Italian girls who were scrutinising my every move. But,
Yeah.
But no, I think carbonara is a very mixed bag. You can go quite far wrong with it.
Yeah, well, you can. Yeah.
I can. I push that boundary every time I try to cook it. But,
It literally is. Gabriella's just said, by Italian producer, just said, it's the easiest thing to make ever. And I concur. I completely agree with you.
I think it's also the easiest thing to innovate on. And
But is it an innovation to use yogurt and peas in a carbonara?
Well,
That's not an innovation.
Somewhere in Italy, that probably is their regional specialty. Because I remember one of the Italians quite specific that it should contain pig cheek and not bacon. In fact, I don't think anywhere it should be bacon. I think it should be sort of pancetta or
the original recipe is pig cheek, but it shouldn't be bacon either.
No, but then you're adding pancetta to your Ocado order, and that just feels a bit bumptious for a bachelor. Who do I think I am?
Don't make carbonara then.
No, I think that was.
I think that's the answer. Listen, are you excited about the World Cup? Is Italy excited about the World Cup? Is Switzerland?
Absolutely nothing. In Switzerland, I mean, they do quite like it. The only evidence I have encountered so far has been a McDonald's advert marketing some World Cup themed burger.
Yeah, well, Italy didn't qualify, did they? So.
But then they would normally be interested in it. I feel as though all of the footballing nations should, by rights, be very invested. But no, there's been nothing really. There's been nothing really in France.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I swear down that it's normal. There's normally more excitement at this stage. That, in a sense, that people who are not interested in football tend to get a little bit dragged into it, or feel like FOMO. You feel like you're missing out on something great if you're not involved in it. But this time, it just feels like, how is it happening at midnight? How is it starting now?
And nobody's done a sweepstake. I haven't had any texts from anybody. I think one of the core problems is that absolutely nobody that I know, I don't know if you know more people, really want to go to it. No one's going to any of the matches. No one's that excited by it. And it's just so hideously expensive. I don't know how much it will be to go to Spain or Portugal, but it seems logistically, at least, a lot more manageable, aspirational.
I completely agree. I mean, they're saying there's something like £35,000 if you want to follow your teams through, if they made it through to the final. That's sort of the ballpark that it would cost you, even if your Visa or ESTA is accepted. So a lot of people have spent an awful lot of money on tickets. These are the most expensive tickets ever in the World Cup. And it's just FIFA being greedy. And a lot of people have spent money but still can't get over there to watch the games.
And even if you can get over there, travelling around the US is a very expensive affair.
Expensive, yeah.
You basically have to fly, and airlines are going to be, their dynamic pricing, so you will end up paying quite a lot for it. And even if you only go to see 3 or 4 matches, you've still spent an awful lot.
Thousands. Thousands. Yeah. And also feel, particularly unwelcome. I don't think America feels very welcoming at the moment. It's certainly not a country I would go to.
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't be in a rush to necessarily. I think if you're obviously Iranian, which I'm not, I think there are a whole other sort of set of problems that you or I probably don't experience at the border of most countries. But even just me, I mean, you do hear these horror stories of just ordinary people being denied at border for reasons that aren't really very clear. And I don't really want to run that risk particularly. I don't want to get deported back to Dublin when I've spent £10,000 on tickets and accommodation.
That's the thing, isn't it? And also a lot of the fan zones have not been funded, so there aren't fan zones. And even if you wanted to go and just observe the mood, if you like, and just be there, you can't without a ticket. Yeah. America won't let you in without an expensive ticket. So it feels like, I mean, it feels like Qatar was even more friendly than
remarkably.
Yeah,
remarkably.
I didn't think we'd ever say that, right? But it feels like that was better organised. It was more welcoming. People did go there. They weren't afraid to be turned away at the border.
No. Well, I mean, to use an aggressively millennial phrase, the vibes are bad this time around.
I agree.
I think that has taken place. Even just looking at the changes that they're making on a local level, like they painted over that famous mural, and even just the disruptions being caused around the stadiums, it just feels a bit bodged. And
there is concern that a lot of the red states, because a lot of the blue states are being deprived of even aircraft landing in them at the moment. But the red states, there's a lot of police have signed up to use ICE.
The whole thing
to police the stadiums, and people will be concerned if they are a slightly tanned hue, that they could be swept up in an ICE raid.
Yeah, and of course, football is, as a cohort, incredibly multinational.
Yeah, absolutely.
This isn't like rugby. There are people being represented from all countries, and I think it's taking that competition to an environment like current present day America was always going to be a risk. And as you say, it does make the Middle Eastern iterations of the tournament seem positively progressive in some ways,
and even Russia.
I think that's the other thing. I mean, let's be honest. All of those places have had their problems, and I think that the workers' rights, in particular, in the Middle East, have been famously pretty.
Yeah, the slave labour that they used. You mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. But it is such a shame, isn't it, that there's such a dampener on this tournament now.
Yeah.
And I just hope that those people who do want to enjoy it get to enjoy it in the UK.
Yeah.
That there is a way that they can be part of it. But like you said, the whole, people saving up for years to go and, follow their team around, be there in America, supposedly the land of the free and the home of the brave, and nobody wants to go there.
No, it's a real shame, and I feel bad for the athletes in particular for whom this is a really big shot. But it's a shame for that competition to be spoiled, to be marred. And there have been other competitions. I mean, the Olympics has gone through phases of being a bit.
Well, America's got the Olympics, haven't they, in a couple of years' time?
I mean, I don't know how they're going to navigate that personally. I don't know how. Obviously, it might have all changed by then. But it does feel as though this competition is being overshadowed by geopolitics. And obviously, from my perspective, as just talking about transport and travel, it can be quite difficult to talk about the competition without saying, well, sort of be careful. Are you sure you really want to waste this money? Sort of, why don't you just take that 10 grand and go to the Dog and Duck and come back hopefully with 9.5 grand change, and you'll probably get a nicer time than chasing your team around a very expensive country that kind of doesn't really want you there.
Yeah.
It's a problem. I think it is. It also compares so unfavourably against, remember South Africa, remember the Vuvuzelas, just the fanfare, the literal fanfare,
the joy.
Yeah, exactly. The energy that surrounded it, and it still has some cachet today. And to me, it just feels like a big. I mean, let's face it, the World Cup has always had a seedy corporate underbelly.
It always has, yeah. But I just wonder, if FIFA, under the current president now, will have to pay for this in some way. That it's not. FIFA have really made some huge boo-boos here, haven't they? And in sucking up to Trump, giving him a peace prize, and subsequently since then he's bombed 4 countries, you know, since he got the peace prize. And you know, the whole sucking up thing was designed to smooth out the visa process, which of course now we've seen a referee being returned after 7 hours of questioning for no particular reason, and Scottish fans not being allowed entry on their is it Esters?
I mean, the Scots, everybody kind of likes the Scots. It feels
Well,
like
Trump is always banging on about. He's got golf courses there, isn't he? He's always talking about it. But they're being denied entry. I don't know. I think it's such a shame because there are so many people who would love, who really want this to be.
I think it is. It's talking.
Oh, I've lost you.
I'm back.
Oh no, you're back. Yeah.
Fabulous. No, it's a real pickle. I don't know what I would be doing if I was working for FIFA. But funnily enough, it reminds me of the Olympic legacies, and I know that I was in Sarajevo a couple of weeks ago, and I know that's somewhere that's very close to your heart. They still speak very positively about the Winter Olympics that were hosted there
in Kislyak.
Yeah, in '84, was it?
Yeah, in '84. Yeah, the Kislyak, the Olympic Park was turned into a sort of UN hub when I was just outside of Sarajevo, not far.
Exactly. I mean, there's a very bittersweet relationship with the tournament and all of the conflicts that happened since then. But the city still talks about it. You can still buy the merch. The bobsleigh run is a nature reserve. It makes me wonder what the legacy of this World Cup will be, and what the legacy of the Olympics will be in the US, and how different that will be. Whether in 40 years' time it will still be being talked about.
I suppose we just have to see how it literally plays out. Ed, we're going to take a quick break, but I'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie with you until 1 o'clock, and with me until midnight is Ed Wiseman, a transport and travel journalist. Ed, I've got a message here. It says, always great to see that gorgeous big bronze stallion on with you and Ed Wiseman. Because for those who can't see the picture here, you have a large... It's very funny, Gary, I liked it. You have a friend with you. A bronze stallion.
It's actually wood. It's a wooden.
Oh, is it wooden? Okay.
And you probably can't tell because of the bandwidth issues we were experiencing earlier. But he's very veiny, which I think is an unnecessary.
As a travel and transport journalist, do you pack him in your bag with you? Do you take him everywhere, or?
I should do. I'm tempted. I've been travelling quite light on this trip, actually. So I
Just the one wooden horse, then.
just the one, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't actually need the pair of them. No, I think this belongs to the hostelry that I am currently staying in. And, I think receptionists probably noticed if I had a whole horse in the morning when I leave. But no, it's very nice.
It is very nice.
The inspiration. Otherwise, it's quite a sparsely decorated room. There are 2 chairs.
I think you should. I think you should always do the papers with a horse behind you. In fact, next time you're in the studio, bring it with you.
I can certainly attempt to. I think it might be a bit of an albatross. Well, I'll see what I can do next time.
Yeah, just see what you can do.
If you recognise it, you'll know that a theft occurred.
Yes.
Somehow smuggle a giant wooden horse back through multiple countries back to London.
And if I'm called to court in Switzerland as a witness to this conversation,
I will knowledge of Gar over here. Yes, no, perhaps we can address that offline if you do need to provide more interesting visual backdrops than I usually do.
Yeah, well, I've got one. See, I make an effort. I hand paint that myself every night.
And Gary's never chimed in with any compliments on that. I think that's
I know it's a shame really, because it is a lot of effort. But thank you, Gary. Brilliant comment as ever. Let's turn our attention to the papers. Single migrant sent back after crossing Irish border. Now this was the open border agreed after Brexit, so that there would be a non-friction passing of basically of lorries and goods and things like that, and of course people as well. Hadi Aladid, the 30-year-old who appeared in court today accused of attempted murder and possession of a bladed item, apparently seems to have travelled across this way. He flew from Paris to Dublin and then got the bus from Dublin into Northern Ireland, into the UK basically, and they don't know how many people actually do that, but I would imagine there'd be quite some number, but they've only ever sent one person back.
Yeah, that's a really interesting and almost internationally unique situation.
Yeah.
It's a very porous border.
It's not one that the EU were happy with, actually, were they?
No, it's not one that anybody seems to be particularly happy with. And given the rest of Fortress Europe, which is very, very well defended, specifically at sort of key immigration pinch points, you can just stroll across it with absolute impunity, which in principle is quite an obscure border. By the time you're there, you've made some big leaps. It's not like the Polish border. It's not like Russia is people right up to the edge of the forest and telling them to walk through. You've already got quite far, but yeah, it's globally kind of unique. I have to cross quite a lot of borders with my work with trains. There are lots of particularities, and I often have to get stamped. I have to use the fingerprint system. I used it a couple of times on the border with Croatia, for example, coming in and out. And when you go to Northern Ireland, it's just a field. Sometimes there's not even a dry stone wall. The road changes surface. The
speed limits change, don't they? You can see the slightly different language on the signs. That's it.
Exactly. But apart from that, there's no delineation at all, which is fascinating for the European Union, which is increasingly obsessed with its borders, and in certain parts and certain corners of the EU, absolutely obsessed with its borders and protecting them. To have in a very complicated geopolitically, very very particular part of its perimeter, just like a sign, and so in some places the remnants of borders. There is the evidence that at some point it has been a serious border, but it's I think very interesting. I have to cross a lot of borders, and I find it very interesting how different different countries approach them.
I just wonder if given the highlight and the spotlight on this now, whether there will be a change to that frictionless border, which is what everybody fought about for how many years after Brexit?
I think it would be for border checks on that border would be, I think, one of the worst legacies of Brexit. If they do come back, I think that would really change a lot of political trajectories in that region, and I think would be a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you.
I'm a bit of a romantic about it, and I often find myself relieved when I drive, often at some speed with or through take a train, and I see the kiosks and the border, the fortifications that used to be in use, going through countries that now have absolutely frictionless. I could get a boat into Italy. I could walk. I walked across the border from into Slovenia, and it very much within my lifetime. There were lots of borders that I crossed without even thinking about it.
Particularly in that sort of Eastern Bloc as well.
Absolutely, they were armed. It
absolutely.
Families were split apart. It's hard to overstate the friction that a hard border brings to a community. And I know Azerbaijan is one where the land borders have been closed since COVID, ostensibly for COVID, but we are now 6 years on and they're still closed. And most people in that region can't afford a plane ticket. You can still fly into Azerbaijan, but only if you can afford to buy a ticket. And so whole communities are split. Lots of people haven't seen their family for over half a decade because of the impact that the hard border brings to communities. Not suggesting that that's going to happen to people in Belfast, but I think we should, in principle, without being sort of too ideological about it, work quite hard to not have hard borders. I think that...
the ease at which you can travel at once you're into, well, certainly before Brexit, that you could travel around Europe was extraordinary. Country to country, get the train from London to Berlin. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think, I still do that. I took a lovely steeper train from Belgrade down to the Montenegro coast. And it is the freedom that was denied so many generations in the second half of the 20th century is really quite amazing. We shouldn't take it for granted, put it that way. Yeah. The number of times I've been past a border post that would have had armed police even in my lifetime, and now it's just a storage room with a couple of vans. That's I'm always struck by how fortunate I am to live in this era.
Yeah.
Hopefully it continues, and hopefully my children get to experience the same thing, and they don't have to queue up to get their dockets stamped on the border of France like they would have done hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a thing of beauty just being able to move around the European bloc.
The Balkans in particular, I think your time spent there when those ethnic and geopolitical tensions were sort of at their most ferocious. And while they still they remain, that whole region must be completely unrecognizable compared to when you were there.
Yeah, it's interesting because my team and I are going back to Bosnia hopefully in the end of September, October, to do a documentary about revisiting some of the areas that I went to, and I'm really excited to see what it's like. Nearly 30 years on. So we are going to make a programme about it, and it will be shown on this show. So there you go. And I will also take notes from you about what Sarajevo's like now, because I understand you went on to the Sniper Alley.
Yeah,
which is just outside the hotel, so it's just a big long road. Yeah.
I happened to stay at a hotel there, and it was perfectly nice. There's still a great deal of large caliber rifle and mortar damage in the buildings, but there's lovely restaurants. I'd never tried klep before. They're dumplings, very small. I was very taken by. And
I'm not a big fan of the coffee, though. I have to be perfectly honest with you.
The coffee is fine. The coffee feels like fuel. It feels like it's designed to wake you up first and
well, it slaps you around the face and punches you around
really,
a bit. Yeah.
And
you can stand a spoon up in it. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. It'll dissolve the spoon. It's like tart.
Not a fan. Not a fan. Of the people, yes, love the people, but the not the coffee. And it was always very sad because if during the war, you'd go and visit families who'd had their homes blasted or lost people or whatever to do a story, and they would always offer you coffee, and it was always so generous because they didn't have any. I mean, this was a city under siege, and they couldn't get goods in very, very easily, but they would offer you their last coffee, and of course you'd have to drink it, and I'd be like, no, please keep it because I won't appreciate it. But it was always very sweet.
Going to give me the runs for 4 days. You can keep it. Yeah. No, it's a shame. It's a shame that we as English do not have the vocabulary to articulate that kind of graciousness. No, but they are very generous.
They're lovely people. Honestly, I really, really like them enormously. So I'm looking forward to going back. The Times really, again, going on about Starmer will not rule out higher taxes for defence. So, I mean, Rachel Reeves looks like she's going to come, this once in a lifetime that she's already done twice could be 3 times. Do you remember that? Yeah. Once in a lifetime tax rises, then she did it again, and now it looks like she's coming back for more.
I don't know how else they're going to play it because defence is expensive. And there isn't a lot of money kicking around. So I don't know what the solution is really beyond tax rises for some people. But we've discussed at length on this programme.
But at least, we'll never be the ultra-rich, though. They won't be asked to pay any tax. It'll just be you and me.
It's just possibly, not even you. I think that it's we've talked a lot about the individuals who are incredibly wealthy and could possibly chip in a little bit more to the national piggy bank, but the corporations that we are involved with at the moment who are taking a lot of money out of the UK, but bringing very little in, I think is going to be a difficult part of the history books to reflect back on. As if the UK does continue to sort of demote itself from global power to just like a country, which seems to be what it's been doing.
Yeah, I think that's now absolutely inevitable. I think the slide has begun, but people will look back on this period of time, and go, "What the hell were they thinking?" Yeah. Let's take a break. Sorry, Ed. We're going to take a very quick break before we go to this story that I absolutely love on the front of the Eye paper. So stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you, and with me is transport and travel journalist Ed Wiseman. Ed, I love this story on the front of the Eye, just because of some of the quotes that are in it a little bit further down. Pictured Russian drone tech boss at Disneyland. This says tech chiefs whose work benefits Putin's war in Ukraine are able to travel with impunity. Alexei Koltyov, creator of a key attack drone simulator, travels freely across Europe and the US. And he said, I didn't really like Disneyland because of the insane queues. He's unimpressed with Nice. I can't say I ever want to go back. And he complained in Florence, I've seen so much of Europe, I could vomit. I want to go home. Is that a bit like you travelling, Ed?
Well, I understand his sentiment. I've definitely come close to articulating those ideas after particularly long trips. Nice, I could take or leave. There are beautiful places just outside it, but the centre is quite frenetic.
But it's a fabulous picture of him as well, looking very unimpressed with some Minnie Mouse ears on.
That's what makes this story, standing in front of the Disney castle, just this sort of surly,
miserable Russian,
Slavic face, staring up at what I assume are about a $25 pair of
yeah, probably.
And it's Minnie Mouse as well. They've been put on his head by someone. Yeah. It's an interesting slice of life. No, I think he raises some interesting points. I think Florence you have to go when it's in the off season. Don't try to attempt it in the when it's in peak summer. And Disneyland, you know what you're getting in for. I don't think you don't go there as an adult to have a nice time. You go there because you have a child. But.
Yeah. Well, some adults do go. I mean, in a weird kind of way. But this is what got me as well. Is his simulator that he designed is rolled out in Russian government classes, teaching school children to fly killer drones.
Yeah, and how cool does that sound?
That does sound like your next lesson, next period. Double killer drone driving. I would have loved it.
Remember how much relief it was when they wheeled in the one VHS player and the big CRT monitor? Remember that? Like a big CRT TV on a trolley?
Yeah.
Imagine the equivalent of that. Just like, right, kids, put your VR goggles on. We're going drone blasting instead of double geography or whatever they were
I mean, wouldn't that have been heaven? I mean, it was always the worst thing. I had double maths on a Monday morning and double maths on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I remember double maths, French, double physics, Latin on a Wednesday.
Oh.
That was over 20 years ago now, and I'm still
traumatized by it. Yeah.
And if somebody had said, if some Lance Corporal had turned up and said, right, kids, put these on, we're gonna show you how to defend the motherland, I would have been leading the march for that PS3 controller.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does sound cool for the kids, not so cool for us. Since
deeply challenging for the children in due course as well when they get sort of conscripted into an unwinnable war. But
it'll just be warehouses filled with young people playing a game. That you know, that I read a book like that once, and I was travelling, so I didn't even buy the book. I think I found it and read it, and it was about that these children thought they were playing video games, but it turned out actually they were fighting a war. So that is pretty scary stuff for the future, because you know they don't even connect with who they're killing. The Daily Telegraph, Miliband defies Starmer on spending cuts. Miliband is resisting pressure from Sir Keir Starmer to cut spending in his department amid a cabinet row about how to fund defence. Now, each department has been asked to, apart from welfare, has been asked to make at least a 1% saving. And he's jolly baity about it, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think those sort of swinging cuts are quite difficult anyway. And if you're slightly stubborn, then obviously you're going to say no. I don't know how that's going to pan out. I feel as though that's going to be a simmering conflict that lasts the duration of this government. But
you get the impression that Miliband is very petulant, don't you? I mean, I just get that he stamps his feet a bit.
in both a good and a bad way. I think that yeah, he's probably both incredibly principled, but also probably a bit of a brat about stuff like this.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I think.
What about A&E receptionists to be replaced by a self-check-in on iPads? So instead of going in, when you go to accident emergency with your arm hanging off or whatever's wrong with you, instead of going up to the counter and saying, can you help me because my arm's hanging off, what you'll have to do is fill in a questionnaire. So hopefully it isn't the hand you write with. Emergency patients will be forced to complete online questionnaires before getting treatment under NHS plans for iPad-style check-ins.
Yeah, I think this is part of the future in which the NHS has been sold to Palantir, I think. And as you point out, if your index finger is broken, you're going to have a
real problem with this. And also, you might not. I think if you're going to A&E, you're probably not very well. So probably
you're possibly not very well. But I mean, we've all had these experiences with the NHS and elsewhere where you are sort of directed to use some app or login function that doesn't quite work for reasons that you don't.
But at A&E, you want to see a human. I mean, the last time I was at A&E, I'd taken a fall, Ed, and cracked my head on a paving stone in my garden, and there was a lot of blood. But I was fine. But there's just that part of I've still got it all glued together. But the ambulance insisted on taking me. I said, look, I'm fine. They went, no, it's a head injury. We've got to take you in. And I don't think I was feeling like doing anything. I mean, I was quite I was a bit disoriented. I wasn't quite myself. There was blood all over me. Filling in a form would have been really the last thing I'd want to do, frankly.
Especially on a sort of second-gen iPad.
That keeps not uploading.
Yeah, exactly. That has a horrible error message and is running out of battery and has been broken.
Or somebody's tried to nick and it's not quite working.
Gone. It's a CES about to be on. So no, I think that this future of turning everything into a self-checkout, I think is quite short-sighted. Have you been following how much theft occurs at self-checkouts? How annoying they are to use? And, how many people just treat them as free food dispensers?
Yeah, they blip one, steal one, blip one, steal one. I've watched people do it.
Maybe not even in such a generous ratio. You do hear of people scanning through sort of a whole flat screen TV as a single level. But I think
as a single plug.
Yeah, exactly. 75p, thank you very much. But that's the trade-off that these organisations are making. It seems like quite a short-term gain. Brilliant. We can sack the very experienced people. We can sack the checkout girl. We can sack the receptionist. What does she even do anyway?
Yeah.
Because we replace her with this iPad and this expensive software, the license for which goes up in price every year. And then eventually you do start to see the trade-offs, the compromise that you've made by doing
like
that.
People just lying dead in A&E and nobody noticing for a week because there's no receptionist and the cleaner's gone on holiday.
Yeah, exactly. Or because they didn't get the two-factor verification code,
or they've got robot cleaners.
Yeah, the whole thing just robot calls. So it could go quite badly, I think.
I think so. I think we still do need human beings, and also let's not forget the little thing called compassion and empathy. If you're not feeling well and you're panicking or something at A&E, you might want to speak to a human being that says, "Listen, don't worry about it. We'll be fine."
Or you can press 5 to talk to compassion bot for your. No, I think you paint a bleak picture of the future of the health service. I don't think it will be that bad because I know that NHS software procurement is very slow and not particularly effective. So by the time this actually rolls out, I think we'll be. It won't be our problem anyway.
Yeah, just leave it to the kids. Your poor kids who you haven't even had yet, and they're going to be able to travel through Europe fine, but hang them if they want to go to A&E.
Yeah, or they'll just have to. Yeah, I think the future, it could go one of two ways, couldn't it? They could be working in the drone warehouse. Shooting at Russians, or they could be Yeah, potentially in a queue for the one remaining bed in England's entire NHS, trying to argue with an iPad. I check in electronically on my GP actually, and that usually works.
Yeah, I
I'd
do.
say-
When you first arrive for your appointment, you put in your stuff. But there are receptionists. My GP surgery is absolutely brilliant. I have to say they are wonderful, and there are human beings there as well. So if you needed to, you could go over there and say I'm a bit confused by something, which I generally am, and they're very sweet and helpful and lovely. Anyway, let's take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And just to let you know that England is 2-0 up against Costa Rica in the final World Cup warm-up game. So it's just really to get them used to, I don't know what. But anyway, and they're 2-0 up. So there you go. We'll bring you more when we have it. With me is Ed Wiseman, travel and transport journalist. And Ed, the Daily Mail, I cannot believe that this wasn't a thing all along. Phone kill switch to end the trade in stolen mobiles. I mean, why on earth wasn't this always a thing? The booming trade in stolen phones has been dealt a huge blow thanks to a high-tech advance. Apple has agreed to install a kill switch that will make snatched devices worthless. I'm sorry, but why wasn't that always a thing?
They have always been a thing. You can block a phone on the IMEI level, but it's there are workarounds, and people do work them around. But I think this move by Apple signifies I think an acknowledgement that it is just a huge problem. An iPhone must be the world's single most stolen commodity at the moment.
Yeah.
It's up there with car stereos from the 80s.
Yeah.
And they just go missing the whole time, and their resale value is high enough. My concern or my observation would be that phones have an innate value in terms of precious metals. They contain gold and other bits and pieces that can be salvaged. And I don't think a software or hardware kill switch is going to change that. If a criminal nicks your phone, they still have in their hand, tens of pounds worth of lithium, of gold or other stuff that they can. And if they are, if they just want to get a fiver for it, then I don't think that. I don't think that the software kill switch is going to make it that much.
That's a really good point, but it will stop, I suppose, those people who just roam around on bikes and nick phones, knowing they can sell it down the pub for, 100 quid. To somebody who has it reset. So it will maybe cut the crime levels down, and I suspect you need to know probably a lot of criminals to figure out who's going to buy a phone for its lithium.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, you used to be able to just post it off. Do you remember? There were adverts about selling your old phone, and it just gets sent to
stripped for parts. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. So I don't think it's beyond. I think they sort of melt it down like a brisket, and they just skim the good bits off the top. But I think that it's not beyond the wit of a low end crook to probably still monetize a stolen phone. But hopefully these measures will reduce the amount of organised phone theft that takes place in parts of London like Oxford Street, where I think it's quite a big policing concern.
And against people in the Labour government, of course, they're quite used to having their phones snatched.
These things do happen
when they want to read their WhatsApps.
Yeah, and maybe there will be a new level of accountability if nobody is stealing phones anymore.
Yeah. What will the excuse be next time? I don't know.
Civil servants and spooks have always been leaving laptops in the Red Line. I don't think it's going to change particularly.
Yeah, the MOD's just released another list, hasn't it, of hundreds of, or thousands actually, of bits of equipment.
That time of year, is it?
Yeah, it's that time of year when they count them. They say, bring your laptop into work day so we can check it off. And people are going, well, it was nicked. I've lost it. Yeah. So I mean, look, it's a good thing, I think. I'm just one of those people who just doesn't get my phone out now in public.
Because
really.
nobody's phoning you, or because
nobody wants to talk to me, Ed.
Yeah.
No, I never answer. My phone is permanently on silent. It annoys everybody that I know.
As it should be, I think.
Yeah, it's permanent.
No, I'm doing a lot of work with the Telegraph, funnily enough, about dumb phones at the moment. And
people are going back to them, aren't they?
People are going back to them, and I think I understand why. I mean, it is just a smartphone is just a bad news machine. It's either somebody who wants you to do something, or it's another war.
Yeah.
So I understand why people are buying a Nokia 3310 and just kind of forgetting about the rest of life. And so I mean, I'm fully on board. I'm sure you have plenty of listeners who have a basic phone that doesn't really have any bells and whistles.
The only thing about a basic phone is the whole texting thing. Do you remember A?
Oh
B,
yeah, I was
C.
born into that. I can still do it very quickly.
Really?
I don't find it that much.
Well, that was my first. I just found it when I went to a smartphone from the dumb phone. It was like, oh, this is amazing.
Oh, really?
To have a keyboard, basically. Yeah. But having to do A, B, C, and all of that. Mind you, the messages were short, weren't they? Because we couldn't be bothered.
Hey, boobs, you up? Yeah, you don't really have to be particularly poetic. No, I found myself when I went back to old school texting. I found I still had the muscle memory.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, to write the exactly 144 characters or whatever it is of an SMS.
Well, it just reminds me of the old phones. You had to dial.
Oh,
they took forever.
That was before my time.
Yeah, well, it wasn't before mine.
when you had to sort of hold it up to you.
And if you got a digit wrong, you had to start again, which was the most annoying thing.
Put the button start all over. Yeah. No, I think those are the children today will never learn the
joy
and perils of having to just know someone's phone number. I still remember key phone numbers from my youth.
Oh, I do. Definitely. I remember my best mates and my phone number from I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't know a single phone number. No.
I think my smartphone has probably robbed me of the attention span and sort of cognitive capacity to retain 11 digits in sequence.
Yeah, it's not possible.
It's not possible anymore. No. I think I've just fried my brain.
Yeah.
So if you don't hear from me next week, I've stayed in the mountains with a Nokia 3310.
With a dumb phone. Yeah, and got
with
lost.
A dumb phone, exactly. Level whatever of Snake.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Snake as well. That was the game, wasn't it? That they all came with.
And that was really quite a memorably good bit of entertainment before games got too complicated and too big. But yeah, I remember just watching this little guy move across the screen, press 2 to go up.
It was great. I mean, why not? I mean, the other thing that young people will never, ever experience is putting a bit of sellotape over the back of a videotape.
Nope. Record that, and same with rewinding a cassette tape with a biro. Or
exactly. And also setting the timer on your video recorder, which was always so complicated. And then you get home and find you'd recorded BBC Two snooker instead of
tongues of praise.
Or the first 5 minutes of the programme you wanted.
Yeah.
And then it was
Gardener's World. Yeah. It came on straight after.
That was always that I do remember is the whole, and then trying to find a videotape you could reuse.
Yeah.
Or rushing home to watch a TV show.
I mean, I still remember that.
No one does that.
No, well, I mean, this is a conversation about linear broadcasting, really, isn't it? I think your career will cover when that was the only option for people to receive a broadcast. I mean, whatever's going to happen in 10 or 20 years' time.
Yeah, had way more listeners and viewers in those days because they didn't have any choice.
Yeah, exactly. They were just bored. Once you completed Snake on your Nokia 3310, what else are you going to do with the evening? Might as well tune in and see what Petrie's going
Exactly.
No, I think
no
we've got more options. We've got more options in terms of entertainment, which is why we're why our brains are completely fried and we can't remember phone numbers anymore.
No, it's completely true. But the young people have missed out on those wonderful experiences that we have. And if you pause the videotape for too long, it all stretched. Rubbish. Anyway, Ed, enjoy the rest of your trip. Thank you very much for taking some time out with you and your pony to spend some time with us this evening. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we see you very, very soon. Ed Wiseman there, travel and transport journalist. Right, coming up, we're heading over to the US in just a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next hour. And just to let you know, England is 3-0 up to Costa Rica in the final World Cup warm-up game. So today, now, we can officially say it is the beginning of the World Cup 26. The very first game is in Mexico City, where Mexico plays South Africa. This big tournament is happening across 3 countries, as we know, the USA, Canada and Mexico. Argentina won last time, and many people think they will win again. But this World Cup has been facing a number of issues. Fans are angry because tickets are way too high. Hotel workers in America are threatening to strike. Also, a referee from Somalia was not allowed to enter the US, along with, it's been reported, many Scottish fans are not being allowed to travel in either. It is definitely doesn't feel like the exciting tournament it normally does. And I don't know what you think that the cause of that is, what the reason of that is. So if you want to give me a call, do let me know. Are you excited about this World Cup? Literally kicking off today. England's first game is next Wednesday, and normally there would be some sense of excitement about this, but I'm not feeling it. Apart from I have to walk through TalkSport, their newsroom, and past their studios, and of course they're absolutely excited about it. They live and breathe football, and you'll get the best coverage anywhere on TalkSport. I shouldn't really be saying that because you should be listening to me. But anyway, let me know if you are excited about it or you're not excited about it. Have you been in the past? Did you get dragged into it? Are you a football fan? Do you not really care? I just have a feeling that something has gone a bit wrong right at the beginning of this, or before the beginning of this. So I just want to know what you think about this. And it looks like England is going to win, obviously. It's 3-0 against Costa Rica. Oh, the game's just finished. 3-0 up. So we won a friendly. So that's good. We won a friendly, which is excellent. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Steve Forbes, who's a sports journalist who covers North America, but is currently in Canada. Steve, so England, we've won a friendly. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a warm-up game ahead of what should be, or what many are hoping to be, a successful tournament for the Three Lions. Costa Rica, maybe not the most formidable of opponents, but a 3-0 win is still pretty good for Thomas Tuchel's men. They had to deal with lightning and rain delays before that game in Florida too. So against the odds when it comes to the weather there as well, but a victory nonetheless going, and that's 2 on the bounce, 1 against New Zealand as well, going into this tournament.
So Tuchel must be quite happy, because there's been some suggestions that he's picked the wrong team. Some people are saying that he's picked the wrong team. He's done it for the wrong reasons. He wanted a team that got on, that could support each other, all of those things. And there's a lot of people are suggesting that he hasn't picked the best men for the job. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, you can say that there are some notable absentees like Cole Palmer, but there is a sense of cohesion amongst this team. I think he's picked players mostly on form who are playing really well for their club sides. And I think there's a real sense of belief that England can go really deep into this tournament. They've been at the last 2 Euros finals as well, arguably should or could have won both of those. So I think when it comes to the World Cup, bar the conditions which they've been training for as well, that's why they're based in Florida, to get used to the heat and the conditions that are going to be in the US. I think England stand a really good chance, if I'm honest.
Well, let's have a look at the rest of the tournament. It has certainly not been smooth sailing, has it, for FIFA getting lots of complaints about them being greedy, about the ticket prices, and they do seem to be eye-watering.
They really are. In fact, I'm based in Vancouver, and quite a lot of tickets are going up for resale. And they're still wanting around about $650, and that's for the games featuring, shall we say, minnows in the likes of Egypt and New Zealand, ones that maybe won't get a lot of home fans here going. And the price in relation to British pounds is about sort of 300, 400 pounds, which is extraordinary for a group game at a World Cup, really, as well. And that has been one of the biggest shadows over the tournament, is how the ticketing has been handled. Gianni Infantino had his press conference ahead of the tournament on Wednesday, where he did address this, had to field some hard questions from journalists, and one of those was on ticket prices. And he kind of brushed a lot of it off.
Yeah.
He said that the main reason was that they are the price they are to avoid them going to black market resellers. But really, I think it's stopping lots of hardcore football, soccer fans of their nation that they want to come out and support in the US, Canada, and Mexico from actually being able to attend the tournament. I did hear that the average ticket price for Canada's first game against Bosnia and Herzegovina in Toronto is around about 1,000 Canadian dollars. Wow. And when you put that into perspective for the average Bosnian salary, which is about $350, you'd have to save up for 3 months before you even consider getting on a plane or booking accommodation. So it really is out of reach for quite a lot of people.
And that, I mean, this is what annoys me about Infantino and about FIFA, is that there's been lots of complaints at the club level about making the ticket prices are getting too expensive, even at club level, and that football is supposed to be a game for everybody, right? The working man, if you like, and this tournament is supposed to be for those fans. It's supposed to be for the hardcore fans, to be able to go and support their teams, or even a player from their club, you know, that they want to support. But this is now becoming, with this sort of pricing, very elitist. It's you know, it's like the ballet or something like that, and that was never the point of football, was it? And yet it seems that FIFA's greed, or these excuses for the greed that they have, is just really making sure that the working man and woman literally are being priced out of these games.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, you put it in perspective for fans of the Premier League. Back home, you're looking at average ticket prices of around about £60. Some are less than that. And then if you want to get top tier seats, they could go into the sort of hundreds, maybe £100, just over 100 for a very good seat at a top tier game. When you're paying double, triple, quadruple that for a group stage game featuring a nation that maybe doesn't have the most support behind it, it is extraordinary. I think as well, this can come down to the American ticket model. When you look at the likes of their more home sports like basketball and the NFL, those tickets are extremely expensive. I think it was the basketball final series being held at Madison Square Garden. Tickets for that were going for around $100,000, but that's because Madison Square Garden only holds, I think, 20,000 fans, whereas the stadiums across the states are holding 50, 60, 70, 80,000 supporters. So you can afford to bring the cost of these tickets down.
Or at least have a big sample of tickets that are affordable, right? And then make the money on the higher up tickets.
Yeah, exactly. Tickets in the executive suites and the boxes are always going to drive more revenue that way. But as you say, it is being taken away from your average football or soccer fan, and especially as well in a country that wants to grow its football fan base here. And if anything, even though there's going to be a lot of attention on North America through the World Cup, if you're driving away supporters from being able to attend matches, even for nations they might not support, but they'd want to go and experience what it is to be at a World Cup game, they're not going to now have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, it kind of, you know, the whole point, I thought, of FIFA was to spread football around the world and to make sure that it reached lots of different communities. But it just doesn't feel like that. It just feels like it is about just raking in as much cash as they possibly can. And of course, fans change the nature of the game for the players. So there will be some teams there that we know that for example, Iran, that won't have the fans there to support them. So it just changes everything, doesn't it? It changes the mood, it changes the game. You know that fans can carry a team when they're having a rough game. They can pull them through. They give them that, you know, that support. You know, the atmosphere is going to be different for those games where the fans are not welcomed by America.
Oh, for sure. And you make a great point there with the Iranian national team and their fans. The Iranian national team have to be based in Tijuana in Mexico, even though their games are played in the US. So they have to fly between Mexico and the US on match days because they can't, per their visa restrictions, can't stay in the United States. And on top of that, with their supporters, they had group stage tickets revoked just mere days before the tournament is starting as well. So it isn't a good look. And on top of that, you then have the visa issue when it comes to people even working at the tournament. The Somali referee, Omar Artan, being denied entry in Miami. In fact, the British Columbia Premier has offered to have him referee games here. There's 7 across Canada, 5 at BC Place in Vancouver, and a couple in Toronto as well. So there may still be an opportunity for him to work. But yeah, it really adds to the controversy and the shadows that have surrounded the build up to this tournament, particularly on the side of the United States.
Yeah, and I mean, the FIFA, I was saying this earlier on to another guest, that, you know, Infantino sucking up to Donald Trump, which is most unedifying anyway, and giving him the FIFA Peace Prize, and behaviour like that was supposed to be a way of smoothing this process of visas out. But the controversy surrounding this World Cup is dwarfing the controversy around Qatar, which is, I'm surprised to say.
Yeah, that is actually quite interesting you point out, because it was all human rights before the Qatar 2022 World Cup, and now it seems to be a similar vein, but more along the issues of visa and entry to the country itself. I think that the notion isn't wasted on Canadians as well. I've been here in Vancouver for almost a year now, and I think since Trump has been in office again, Canadians aren't traveling to the States anywhere near as much. I think they were the biggest tourists in the States for the last however many years. They're not going so much. I've got family here who are refusing to travel to the States, and Seattle was only 2.5, 3 hours drive down the road from where we are until Trump is no longer in the White House, and even to the point where they're changing the names of coffees. An Americano is no longer an Americano in a lot of coffee shops. It's a Canadiano here as well.
And you know, I love the Canadians. I genuinely do. I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
They're not taking kindly to it. I don't think many will be travelling across the border to go to games. But in saying that, Team Canada are playing their group games. They're first in Toronto on Friday, and then 2 at BC Place in Vancouver.
So you've got a situation here, though, again, looking at FIFA and the sometimes the odd choices that they appear to make for countries to host, you know, these big, huge tournaments. I mentioned Qatar, and there's Russia and others. But, you know, I thought when they were researching, you know, who should have these tournaments, that they looked into things like visas and, you know, and they must have known there was a possibility that there would be another Trump, because everybody else did, another Trump presidency. So do you think it's gone wrong giving America this tournament?
I wouldn't say it's gone wrong from FIFA's point of view. That was one of the questions that Infantino was asked in his press conference. Did he regret giving or awarding the World Cup to the United States? He says no. He says the World Cup wouldn't even be held here without the help of Donald Trump, and that really it's not FIFA's place to get involved in the immigration processes of particular countries. The Women's World Cup in 2035 is due to, set to be held in the UK, I believe. And he said that he's not about to tell Sakir Starmer who he should or shouldn't let into the country. So.
Yeah, but like you said, he's just brushing off his responsibility to make sure that FIFA is spreading the football around the world so everybody can enjoy it, and that he's just dodging the responsibility of that, surely.
Well, potentially. I mean, you say spreading around the world. I think it's going back to the Middle East in 4 years' time as well. So we'll see how long it is, maybe, before another friend of Gianni Infantino's gets awarded their country a World Cup.
Yeah, or at least a Peace Prize. We'll wait and see. Well, listen, Steve, I hope you have a fabulous tournament, and hopefully maybe I'll get to talk to you again about it somewhere down the track.
Thanks, yeah, hopefully.
All right,
Brilliant.
send my love to Canada. Take care. Steve Forbes there, sports journalist who's going to be in North America, but he's currently in Canada. So are you excited about the World Cup? Do you think that FIFA have done a good job? Are you sick and tired of Infantino just going, nah, it's not my fault? Let me know, 0344 499 1000. Back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. And today, dun dun dun, the World Cup kicks off. Are you excited about it? I do not feel there is the same sort of excitement as there has been around other World Cups. I just don't feel it. And maybe that's, I don't know why that would be. I mean, I literally work in the next office to Talk Sport. You'd imagine that that would have seeped through. They're very excited, obviously, and they're right across it. They've got teams going out there, they've got people out there who's going to be covering that for you on Talk Sport. All those brilliant sporting journalists that we've got are going to be covering every second of the tournament for you with great excitement. But I just don't feel that sense of excitement in the country. That, and maybe it's too early, maybe it's literally just started, so nothing's really going on. But, you know, I just remember at other tournaments thinking, maybe I should watch a bit of football. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe this is wonderful and I'm missing out on something. I don't feel that this time around. And I mean, I do have a downer on the current American administration, and I wouldn't go to America if you paid me millions of pounds. I literally wouldn't. But it's right now anyway, which is a shame because I love America. But I just think it's not, I don't know. Is there something missing this year? What's going on? What's happening? Let me know. Are you excited about it? And if you're not, why not? Let me know. Gary has said, I have no interest, absolutely no interest in the World Cup or football in general. For me, the highlight is after the final whistle is blown and the players swap shirts. Doesn't get me. You're so naughty. And this message from Mike in Newcastle. Thank you very much indeed. Honestly, I really appreciate this. You've got no idea how much. Mike says, I love your show. It's a shame it's only on 3 times a week. Mike, thank you. I do absolutely appreciate comments like that. So thank you very much indeed. Melissa is in York. Melissa, good morning.
Hello, my love. You look amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes, I don't know if you did the jab thing, but you look fabulous. Right, moving on. I'm not a football fan.
Right.
Except for when it comes to, like the World Cup or whatever. But I think the rot actually set in when FIFA gave Trump the made-up Peace Prize. And I don't know how much that is linked to America getting the gig. I mean, it stinks, to be honest.
But to be fair, they were given the gig years ago, weren't they? I mean, it was given to America years and years ago.
Money involved.
There's all. I mean, look, there's no. Well, we've heard, haven't we, about the corruption that goes on, and the brown envelopes, and the decisions of to where countries should have. I
wonder how much the billionaire David Beckham was involved, like he was with
Qatar.
The Olympics and stuff. Do you know what I mean? I think it all just smells. It does not smell good.
But America should be
dynamic pricing.
Yeah, America should be a good country, shouldn't it? It should be a good country for a huge sporting event.
It's not even in America, one of the largest countries, yeah? And it's starting off in Mexico. So where's the bloody wall gone?
Oh, yeah. Well, the Mexicans are busy building it. But
but they're
paying
not.
for it, but they're not.
Even the locals can't go. And I think the whole thing is, it just smacks of corruption.
Well, it's not the tournament that it pretends to be, is it? I mean, you had the slave labour being used in Qatar. You have in Mexico tent cities. And people being cleansed out of these sporting areas for the time. It's not the heart and soul of what football I thought was meant to be.
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be unity, bringing countries together, like the Olympics. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be, although don't forget the history of the Olympics with Russia and blah, 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 blah.
And East Germany.
And the Germans, sorry.
And,
so, I mean, it just doesn't taste good, you know?
I just think it's a real shame because I'm like you, Melissa. I'm not a football fan.
No.
But I love to see people enjoying things, and I love that people love their sport. I mean, honestly, when there's a match, a big match on in this building, because our newsroom is right next to talkSport's newsroom. It's open plan. It's open plan. So often we can't hear ourselves think because they're cheering and shouting and jumping around and or kicking a football about or whatever it is they do in the playpen, as I call it. But they love their sport and they love their football, and that's brilliant. I love to see that. But it is such a shame that people, ordinary people, can't afford to go to America to see their team play.
That is the tragedy.
Yeah.
But I'm also very pertinently aware that, and it's not recent news, but that is, I'm afraid, when England loses and things like that, that's when domestic violence increases.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's a big issue, actually. I mean, like I say, I'm a fan when it comes to joining together for the World Cup, but I've just got this horrible taste in my mouth. And I'm actually a British and American citizen, and I, like you, even though I can't think of anything worse than going to America at the moment.
No. And it's just very, very. For me, it's on sort of moral grounds at the moment.
Well,
but
it's almost dystopian.
Yeah, it's very, very worrying, isn't it? This whole thing. But listen, I hope people have a fabulous tournament and that they really enjoy it.
And I hope
if they can afford to go.
That money.
Yeah.
Do not come a cropper, and there's no violence. There's no ice. There's no nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And I hope Mexico gets a chance to shine with the opening tomorrow. But it does seem very duplicitous. and why a country that big can't hold a tournament single-handedly and has to spread it across 3 countries when Trump was trying to turn Canada into the 51st state. I'm surprised they've even agreed. So
well, I suppose the idea was just
to... Canada's 51st state on the other.
Yeah, well, that's why they won't travel to the US, isn't it?
But it's a mug's game.
Yeah, I just hope that I really, my hope is that this is a fantastic tournament and everybody gets there and really, really enjoys it. And, you know, however far we go, brilliant, whatever. And I'm
not holding my breath.
I just hope that it is what everybody wants what everybody wants it to be. It should be amazing. Melissa, thank you very much indeed. So listen, let me know about this World Cup. Has it caught your attention? Is it going to really make you go down the pub every time there's a game on? I mean, I only know when the games are that clash with this programme, so I'm intending just to tap dance on the desk during those, because I expect and want people to be tuned into those games and listening to them and enjoying them and having fun with them. That's the whole point of this sports tournament, that it should be a joyful and exciting tournament. So I really hope that people just really enjoy it. So, you know, next Wednesday I'm going to bring some knitting in. I think we might do that. There's a big England game. That's the first game, England game. But listen, if you want to go at this late stage, how are you going to get there? Well, FIFA World Cup kicks off, of course, today, and our friends at talkSPORT are sending you and a mate straight to New York. That's how you get there now. With Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier, it's the ultimate trip to watch England face Panama live at the MetLife Stadium. Return flights, hotel, match tickets, as we were talking, they're expensive, but you get those with this competition, and you get spending money, all taken care of. Plus, Adidas is throwing in an official try-under match ball and a fresh pair of boots. So don't miss out, especially like I'm saying, those tickets are really pricey. You can get them for free here. Well, entering a competition. Here's how to enter.
For your chance to win, head to our friends at talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close on the 12th of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talksportwin.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. It's Petrie here with you until the top of the hour, and just been checking. I was just checking there with my producer if there's any further information on the US striking Iran, and we've not really heard it. We haven't heard anything from Iran. A couple of hours ago we did, saying that they would respond in kind, but we haven't heard anything. There's nothing from Tehran directly. The US military has launched those new strikes on Iran after President Trump said that US forces would hit the country hard. As Tehran, he said the reason for this was because they'd taken too long to make a deal to end the war. And then he went on to say it was because an Apache helicopter was hit by a drone. Well, US Central Command, CENTCOM, said it began self-defensive strikes on Wednesday against multiple targets, and it said the strikes were a response to Iran's unwarranted and continued aggression. 2 ships off the Strait of Hormuz were hit by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps Navy shortly after the country's military said vessels would be targeted in the strait. This is from Tehran state media. So that's the latest. But joining us to discuss this and other US stories further is John Misek, politics editor at masslive.com in Boston. A very good morning to you, John. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Petrie. Nice to see you.
John, this language that is being used by CENTCOM, self-defense strikes, is there a reason for that?
I think they're trying to position this as not an act of aggression, Petrie. They're trying to, they've been trying to say that there's a ceasefire in effect, as elastic as that is, and has become. And even as the president tries to bring the Iranians to the negotiating table, we have these strikes going on. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saying tonight is if we have to negotiate with bombs, we'll negotiate with bombs, and there's no one better at doing it in the world. It is a very odd way to try to end a conflict, but here we find ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Donald Trump had been limited by Congress as to his war plans with Iran. I thought that finally there had been a vote. There were some Republicans that crossed the floor, 4 of them, I believe, in order to limit Trump's ability to continue with the war in Iran. So what is this? Is that also why it's being called self-defense?
Well, I mean, that legislation is not entirely across the goal line either, Petrie. The version that passed in the House with Republican crossovers went back to the Senate for additional action, which hasn't taken place yet. And then the president needs to then sign that into law for it to fully take effect. So one can imagine how long that might take, if ever, and his enthusiasm for doing it. So that is sort of, it was important that Republicans crossed over. It was an act of public defiance by what has been a pretty supine Congress these last not quite 2 years. But again, that legislation is not quite all the way there. And there's been this back and forth with the president saying it's a ceasefire, it's not a ceasefire, and then vowing to rain down destruction on Iran after that Apache was downed. And thank goodness no Americans were hurt in that, or were killed rather in that crash.
Yeah, I'm interested you say crash, because some people are suggesting that the helicopter hit the drone. I've seen commentators saying that wouldn't be an unusual thing to have happened, as opposed to the drone hitting the helicopter, but that'll come out further down the line. What is the political appetite for this war? I mean, whatever they call it, it's a war, and the belief is that Trump thought it would be over in a matter of days, and here we are. It's 103 days into this now. The strait closed, which it wasn't before. The world economy on the edge because it was started in the way that it was started by America and Israel. Is any of that sort of soaking through in America?
I mean, if we're talking about the polling, the desire for war is somewhere near absolute zero. This is polling terribly with Americans who are, as you pointed out, are paying much more at the pump. Gas that soared past $5 US at one point. And there's a station not too far filling station not too far from where I live here in Boston, where it's $5.20 something per gallon. I don't know what that comes out to in kilos and stuff, but or kilograms, but it's pricey. Americans are feeling the pain in the grocery store. The prices of everything have gone up. Inflation increased again this month. The president said earlier this evening that he likes the inflation and is unbothered by it. But if you look at the polling, Americans are not happy about this. At all. They don't like his management of the war. They don't believe the United States should have gotten involved in this.
Well, since he promised as well not to get involved in regime change or Middle Eastern wars specifically.
Yeah, this is something that Kristen Welker, the NBC reporter, put to him time and again on Sunday. That he said there would be no. He had said during the campaign that there would be no more wars, that he'd be the anti-war president. But since being in office, there was the attack on Venezuela. There's now the Iranian conflict. There's the ratcheting up of pressure on Cuba, which could well be next, and whatever else is down the line from there. In the meantime, the domestic agenda has been completely put to one side, and I think a lot of Americans are feeling forgotten about it. I can tell you from personal experience that trying to pay for groceries on a Saturday afternoon is just a laugh a minute these days. But it's difficult out there for folks. It really is.
And yet he does still have support of MAGA, and that could add up to a third of the country. So that is something I can't quite understand, because he clearly said on day one he was going to bring prices down. He did care about high inflation when he could blame Joe Biden for it. Now he doesn't care about inflation and likes it. And the tariffs were meant to do all these wonderful things for the country, and they've done absolutely the opposite. In fact, they've been ruled illegal, and he's got to pay the money back. And yet MAGA is still Trump all the way, even though they can see what it's costing them for their, health insurance, what it's costing them for their mortgages, what it's costing them for petrol, which is a significantly psychological measure in America, exactly. and then the groceries as well, which are massively high, possibly because of the tariffs not coming back down, and also because of the war.
I mean, you can look at MAGA, though. It's not a majoritarian movement by any stretch of the imagination. It's a bare plurality, about 39% of the electorate. Whatever political gains the president had made coming out of the 2024 election have pretty much evaporated. He's back down to his core base, that 38 to 39% of voters for whom he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue.
That still seems high.
No one care. It is extraordinary that many people in, but I mean, if you have conversations with some of these voters, and I have, they're not thrilled about inflation. It's not what they signed up for. This war isn't what they signed up for. This portion of the population, more than anyone else, are the people who are sending their sons and daughters to the military. It's not parents in Georgetown, the exclusive section of Washington. It's the parents in Mississippi or in Arkansas or South Dakota or those states that voted for Donald Trump, whose kids are being sent to war, and they don't like it one bit.
Looking at other controversies around Donald Trump, there is, of course, the glaring elephant in the room, and that is the 25th Amendment and the president's health. There's certainly much has been said for quite a long time about the president's health, but now it seems to be gaining some traction. It seems to be gaining some notoriety when he has these long blinks in various meetings, or repeats himself, or blatantly says something that is completely left of field, or this odd behaviour that you might see from him, the sort of temper tantrums as well. There's a lot more attention being paid to him at the moment. What is the general consensus on the president's fitness to continue as a president?
This is a president who's shortly to turn 80 years old, to be the oldest person to serve in the office, oldest at the time of election, even older than Joe Biden was. He's been to the doctor an awful lot lately. A lot has been made of him taking these cognitive
The
tests, which he
Montreal
claims,
tests, yeah.
yeah, and I mean, those are normally a test for dementia and mental fitness. The fact that he's taking them repeatedly is a cause for some concern. We've had at least one Democratic lawmaker step up this week and say the White House needs to come clean about this, about his fitness. Of course, if you listen to the White House, everything's fine. He's the healthiest president in the history of ever. But look, my mom is 80-something years old. The warranty starts to go at that age, and they have health problems. So to try to deny that for even somebody who apparently is as vigorous as he is, and this is a job that grinds you down. I mean, you look at those before and after pictures of a lot of American presidents, and they look like they've gone through
absolutely. It's the same here.
Ringer.
Yeah, it's the same here with prime ministers. It is interesting, though, isn't it, that of course it is obvious to the whole world that Donald Trump is often up and tweeting or whatever, truth socialing. I don't know what the abbreviation of that is, but hours and hours into the night and into the morning. And then, of course, it is no surprise to anybody at all that an 80-year-old man would then start to drop off at important meetings. So there's something going on.
Oh, quite clearly. I'm obviously in no position to talk about it, but those late night tweet sprees or truth sprees or whatever you want to call them, where he bashes out 50 or 60 of them, each more bizarre than the last. AI videos or resharing
Pictures of himself as Jesus, yeah.
Right, and resharing other images attacking his rivals. It's it's obviously cause for concern.
Yeah. Let's turn now to the World Cup. Because there's a lot of controversy around that as well, John, and that the controversy around that as well sort of sits with Donald Trump, doesn't it? It's about all the countries who are barred from fans coming in. We've seen a very talented referee being turned away after several hours, 7, I think, hours of questioning. He had his visa revoked. Other fans from other countries like Scotland being denied entry. How is the mood about the World Cup in America? Because I know if it was in the UK, it would be absolutely crazy excitement.
Yeah, I mean, here in Boston, we're one of the host cities. The group stage matches are actually going to be played about 30 miles out of town, and people are brought in on the commuter rail to those matches in Foxborough, where the New England Patriots play. Pardon me, Peter. There is some degree of fighting off a cold. There is some degree of trepidation on the part of Bostonians. We don't know what this is going to look like with 10 or 20,000 foreign tourists in the city. There is concern in Hispanic and Black and Brown communities about the presence of federal immigration agents outside of Gillette Stadium where the matches are being played. So this should be cause for celebration, and were this in a European capital, sure, as you point out, I'm sure it would be. But I think there's a lot of nervousness about this, mixed in with the excitement of hosting these matches.
Because America does want to. My understanding is it wants to increase its presence in soccer, as you call it, wrongly.
Sorry.
We do forgive you just slightly, but
thank you.
It's an odd way. It seems to be dampening it down rather than raising it up as a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, there's the big question of how much bounce the American game is going to get out of the World Cup when everything is said and done. In 1994, the last time the country hosted the World Cup, MLS, the Professional Men's League, was founded, and it looked like there was going to be a surge. And it's never, even though there are kids out on the pitch every weekend playing with their parents, it's never really risen up to sort of a top tier league. So there is a question now of is this the World Cup that's finally going to break the game in the United States? And there's some degree of skepticism there as well.
And this story, actually, I wanted to talk to you about it. Very, very interesting. It's about Bill Gates, who was testifying to a hearing and said some very interesting things about Jeffrey Epstein.
He did indeed. The Microsoft founder came in and testified before the House Oversight Committee. I don't believe he was under oath. He was not subpoenaed and compelled to testify, but was sharing what he knew with the committee. Claimed he was being blackmailed by Mr. Epstein in a way to sort of for him to get access to his money. He used his knowledge of Mr. Gates' apparent infidelities to try to leverage that influence with him. Representative Stephen Lynch, a Democrat from Boston, who's one of the top Democrats on that panel, did in fact ask Gates why he continued to consort with Epstein, even after he knew that he was a convicted sex offender. Gates said that was something that he regretted and wished that he hadn't done. So this is this story being thrust back into the spotlight again in the public arena after kind of being away from it for a while. It's been sort of overshadowed by the war and other things. But when you have a titan of American industry like this coming forward and testifying on Capitol Hill, it's a pretty big deal.
And it sort of speaks to what people suspected about Epstein, right? About him being, he had cameras everywhere and gathering intelligence on people, whether it was for his own use or for some other players' uses. We're not so sure about at the moment, but likely that it could have been for other players. But he was gathering information, and if he was prepared to use that against Bill Gates, then who else has he used it for leverage? Which I think is the most interesting question to come out of that. Of that situation.
Yeah, I mean, there are still multiple pages of documents that have not been disclosed. There's still quite a lot that we don't know.
About 1 million, isn't there?
Yeah, about 3 million pages, I think, that haven't been disclosed yet. I mean, and I was thinking about this before we hopped on air. I mean, unlike in your country where the former prince was held to account and your former ambassador was held to account, nobody in the United States has been called on the carpet in quite the same way. Our European friends have been slightly more effective.
We can't believe it. Honestly, we are dumbfounded, especially when, as well, the sitting Attorney General saying nothing to see here. That we looked at it and there's nothing there, and you're going, what? Really? Fascinating. And let's hope we get more information and that people's heads do roll over this whole grotesque situation. John, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you. A real pleasure to see you. I hope your cold gets better.
Nice to catch up.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us live from Boston. That's the politics editor at masslive.com in Boston, John Misek. Right, quick break. Back in a second.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So, if the England win in the friendly, the 3-0 win against Costa Rica has given you a taste for the World Cup. What about this? TalkSport have teamed up with Meantime to create a lager in time for the World Cup. It's called So Good Lager, which will be poured from all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. So whether you're watching the action this summer or settling in for an afternoon with your mates, make sure you check out talksport.com/so good to find your nearest pub. 18 plus, and please, of course, drink responsibly. It's going to be a lovely hot weekend this weekend, isn't it? Can't wait. Right, let me just read some messages. Ernie has said, hi Petrie, when every TV channel is showing football matches from countries most people have never heard of and hardly anything else is being shown, at least we have Talk to go to, where we can put our opinions across and put the world to right. And that's from Ernie. Yeah, don't forget that next Wednesday, because I'm going to be on my own here. With that England game. So make sure you stay tuned, Ernie. And Phil in Chelmsford has said, hi Petrie, I think the World Cup doesn't feel the same this year as many of the games take place in the early hours of the morning. The feeling of rushing home from work or school to watch the matches or even to go to the pub just isn't there this time round. I also love America and I'm lucky enough to travel to regularly go there. No matter who the president is, it is a great place to be. Love your show. Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. I think you've got a point there, actually, because with people going down the pub, it's a big part of it, isn't it? And if you can just go finish your work and rush to the pub or sneak an afternoon off, you know, I'm feeling unwell and go down the pub and watch football with your mates. I suppose you can't really do that with this tournament. Maybe that is going to slightly kill it off a bit. I don't know. Let's hope not. Francis, good morning.
Good morning, Petrie.
How are you?
I'm fine. I mean, this whole World Cup, I mean, it's just, I think it's wishful thinking. I think we are all hoping somewhere down the line, in the last minute, we would all rally together and, you know, sort of hype it up, make it an absolute and utter success. But that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah, because normally the World Cup does bring the country together, doesn't it? In a really sort of quite special way. Even if you're not really into football, you get swept up into it, and it's so lovely to see. But it just doesn't have that feeling this time.
Not at all, because it's the state of affairs. I mean, we've got you know, wars all over the place. We've got a president in America who, I think the main issue, and people have got to understand, yes, I love America too. I've spent time in New York, I've spent time in Chicago, I've traveled through America, I've had a great time. But people, you know, the elephant in the room, Petrie, is Mr. Donald Trump has really sort of, I mean, he's you know, put a damper on everything.
Well, he spent the last year sort of, you know, slagging off all his allies and hacking people off and you know, being... and it's hardly surprising that people are going, oh, all right then.
Exactly. But I think collectively, I think world leaders are complicit in having allowed Donald Trump to basically run amok.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, I'm furious about it. All that sucking up and toadying that they've all done.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, I mean, they've created a climate of fear, a climate of mistrust. And, and some of the policies they've introduced regarding people from certain parts of the world is just, it's totally and absolutely unacceptable. And I cannot imagine anyone wanting to visit America in this present times. People have got to understand one thing. Yes, it doesn't matter what president is in. Yes, it does matter who is in charge of a country. If, you know, we've got, a regime that is picking up people off the streets. Okay?
Yeah.
And so no matter what they say, they've brought in some sort of, a PR company, some spokesman from Europe to hype up, and to give America this sort of refreshed and renewed image of being a welcoming place for everyone. And I'm like, hang on a minute. We all can remember what the ICE agents have been doing this last year or two. And so I cannot imagine people from South America, Africa, or
anyone with a brown skin, or anything.
Exactly.
I would be scared. I would be nervous because a lot of the cities are deploying ICE to patrol the stadia. So you can just imagine if you haven't got your passport on you, or whatever, what's going to happen, because they take first and ask questions later.
Absolutely, and people have to. And so we need to, and also, when you're traveling to America these days, you have to be very careful what you have on your phone.
I wouldn't be allowed in.
If you have anything that criticizes Mr. Trump and his regime, you'll be, deported back to wherever you come from. This is,
if you're lucky. Yeah, there's been very many people who've been detained in ICE centres, before they've been deported from all over Europe. So it's. I don't know. I really, genuinely hope that this tournament is a massive success. I mean, it will stick in my craw a bit because Trump will take credit for it. But I hope it is a massive success, despite what's been going on, because it deserves to be. People love this game. They love this sport. They absolutely live and breathe it. But it just worries me that it won't be. And I'm so concerned about the politics around it, Francis, that may sour this a bit.
Oh, yes. And also, ticketing. The prices for tickets are just ridiculous. Let's put it this way. It's a game that's supposed to bring all,
it's the working man. It's the working man who could, go down a pub, have a pint, leave the factory and go and watch that's what it was intended for. That's the whole point. And now it's becoming so elitist in the pricing that it's cutting out those fans, which is disgraceful.
Oh, yes, it's cutting out. But it's, and most of the tickets, a lot of hotels in America are empty.
Yeah.
A lot of, yes, because it's unaffordable. Because let's say, someone traveling from, Europe to America,